Chapter 239. The great ape of Gen Earth was proud of itself as it watched the battle unfold. It was very satisfied with itself, both in terms of its physical strength and intelligence. Sometimes it would wonder why humans were the wisest of all creatures. The great ape of Gen Earth was the wisest of all creatures. In comparison, the bloodthirsty demonic wolf was too weak. Not only did these two kids escape without a trace, they were even hunted down and killed. What a disgrace to the beast lords! In fact, the reason why the great ape of Gen Earth attacked the nearby towns was because of the mission given by the Azure Dragon Mirror. The will of the Azure Dragon Mirror was equivalent to a deity here. No one dared to disobey the words of a deity. The great ape of Gen Earth knew that it was too slow to cultivate by itself. Only by continuously completing the missions given by the Azure Dragon Mirror and obtaining the energy bestowed by the Azure Dragon Mirror would he be able to rapidly increase his cultivation. Otherwise, why would these arrogant beast lords attack the nearby cities and towns every single night? Just as the great ape of Gen Earth was about to command the beasts to attack again, its expression suddenly changed. The formation that was connected to its mind was currently under attack and was being destroyed by someone. Roar! The great ape of Gen Earth roared angrily and returned to its nest. Who was it? Who was it that was attacking its nest? Was it one of the beast lords nearby? That was not right. They did have a grudge against each other, but it was the second round of the Azure Dragon Institute. It was the best time for them to improve their cultivation. Instead of completing their missions, they came to attack their home. What was going on? Where was the justice? Seeing the sand and rocks in the distance, the people in Blue Water City were stunned. What was going on? Was it the great ape of Gen Earth that just left? Someone finally reacted and muttered to himself. Other than the great ape of Gen Earth, there was no one else who could cause such a disturbance. But why did it suddenly leave? Isn't it the most powerful and intelligent level 7 beast in this area? Why did it suddenly leave? Everyone was puzzled. Yes, the great ape of Gen Earth was more powerful and intelligent than other beasts of the same level. How could it escape in such a state? But without the great ape of Gen Earth here, the beast tide is not as scattered as before, but its strength is greatly reduced. Some of them were breathing rapidly. That's right. Charging into the beast horde and earning points like crazy. Wasn't that one of the ways Fong Yu became famous overnight? Finding a fortune was a stroke of luck. There was nothing to say about it. Challenging 10 people didn't earn him many points, and his reputation was only spread within Flame City. However, when the beast horde arrived, it was easy to charge into the beast horde, kill the monsters, and earn points. This was a great opportunity to become famous in a single battle. Open the formation! Someone called out loudly. No! Someone immediately stopped him. Once the beast tide enters the city, the consequences will be unimaginable. That's right, it was obvious what these guys were thinking. It was nothing more than taking advantage of the Gen Earth giant ape's retreat to go out of the city and fight. There was no denying that this was a great opportunity. It was not an exaggeration to say that this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. This was because in the history of the Beast Wave, the Beast King would never leave for no reason. Now that the great ape of Gen Earth had left, it was indeed tempting. However, the level 7 monsters were only one of the terrifying aspects of the beast horde. Most of it originated from the beast horde itself. A mixed army of level 1 to level 6 demon beasts, no matter how powerful a martial artist was, would be scattered and crushed by them. Not to mention, under the command of the Gen Earth giant ape, this wave of beast horde already had some discipline. If a martial artist rashly entered, although it was not certain that he would die, it was still extremely dangerous. One must not be rash. For a moment, the Blue Water City was in an uproar over whether to fight or defend. Fong Yu, can you do it or not? Outside the Gen Earth giant ape's nest, Fong Yu had been fiddling around for a long time, but to no avail. Lu Shuzhan couldn't help but urge him. A man can't say that he can't do it, Fang Yu replied, but he was actually urging the dragon soul. Can you do it or not? Why are you still talking about the divine dragon? Didn't you perform a blood sacrifice in the past? Why isn't this ability working now? Fang Yu, I'm warning you. Don't mention my blood sacrifice in the past. The dragon soul was also displeased. The blood sacrifice in the past to become a divine dragon was not a glorious feat, but Fang Yu had mentioned it again and again. It would be lying if it said that it wasn't angry. Then when will you be done? Fang Yu asked again. Probably. Yes. I'm done. The dragon soul replied excitedly. Buzz. Bang. The almost transparent power of the array suddenly became transparent, and then, in front of everyone's eyes, it shattered into pieces. The array is broken. Lu Shuzhan looked at Fang Yu in surprise and said, I didn't expect you to be so versatile. You even know about arrays. I just know a little. Fang Yu said modestly, let's move quickly in case the Gen Earth Giant Ape comes back. Although he wasn't afraid of the Gen Earth Giant Ape, Fang Yu's plan was to avoid direct conflict with the Gen Earth Giant Ape. After all, it was a level 7 beast. Even if it wasn't possessed by an evil spirit, its intelligence and physical body were superior to ordinary beasts of the same level. It could be said that it was a very powerful enemy. Unless it was absolutely necessary, it was best not to provoke it. Although Fang Yu's sneaky behavior was already a matter of life and death. Okay. Naturally, no one had any objections to this. Although they looked fearless, how could they not be worried at all after doing such a thing? Since they were already here, they might as well make the best of it. Since they were already here, they couldn't possibly turn back now, right? The Gen Earth Giant Ape's nest was built like a castle. It was shocking. However, without the protection of the array, this place also lost its defensive power. Fang Yu and the others entered as if there was no one there. It's not much different from those rich men. Feng Yaoguang marveled at how the Gen Earth Giant Ape knew how to enjoy life. Ordinary rich men couldn't even compare to this beast. Then it's even easier to find it. Perhaps this beast is like the bloodthirsty demonic wolf. It has things here and there. Let's not talk about us. Even I doubt that it can find it on its own. However, the Gen Earth Giant Ape is similar to humans. That's easy. Fang Yu grinned and said, humans like to put good things together, such as building a treasure room. If the Gen Earth Giant Ape is similar to humans, then it should be the same. As he spoke, Fang Yu's gaze turned and landed on the deepest and most majestic room in the castle. Chapter 240. If that was all, they might not be able to confirm that this was the treasure vault of the Gen Earth Giant Ape. However, there were many restrictions outside the door, which made Fang Yu certain that this was the treasure vault. Restrictions are equivalent to a mini formation that has been dismantled. They are weaker than a regular formation, but they are more convenient and don't require too many materials, the Dragon Soul suggested. The Dragon Soul suggested, Fang Yu, you can consider developing in this direction. Fang Yu nodded slightly. For example, the famous Tharch slaughtering formation required a huge amount of materials and resources. Many of them were hard to find. No matter what, it was too difficult to kill a martial emperor. No matter how high the price, it was worth it. However, restrictions were different. If one could study restrictions to a high enough level, even a martial emperor would have to be wary of them. Therefore, with Fang Yu's weak foundation, it would be better for him to learn restrictions than formations. In any case, they all came from the same source, so understanding one principle would lead to 100 more. Compared to formations, restrictions were much more practical. Buzz. With the Dragon Soul's help, the restrictions of the treasure vault could be easily broken. Moreover, the Gen Earth Giant Ape was a demonic beast. Its understanding of formations and restrictions could not be too profound. Even if the Dragon Soul did not do it, Lu Shuzhan and Mo Ling, and the others could also break them. However, it would be faster if the dragon soul did it. At the same time, the Gen Earth giant ape sensed that its treasure vault had been opened. Roar! The Gen Earth giant ape was enraged. The treasure vault was filled with its many years of collection. If these human cultivators really barged in, they would definitely be swept clean. How could it tolerate this? It could not tolerate this. Fang Yu and the others knew that the Gen Earth giant ape had discovered the changes here. All formations and restrictions were usually connected to the owner's mind, unless they were deliberately hidden. Fang Yu and the others knew the Gen Earth giant ape's intelligence. If they deliberately hid it, they would not be able to, and it would take time and effort. Since that was the case, they might as well break in and tell the owner that they, Fang Yu, were the ones who did this. Be quick. The Gen Earth giant ape might return at any time. Fang Yu urged them to be more efficient. Otherwise, when the Gen Earth giant ape returned, there would definitely be a fierce battle. Even if they were not afraid of the Gen Earth giant ape, they would still be at a disadvantage in an away battle. There was no need to do such a thankless task. This guy sure has a lot of materials, Feng Yaoguang said after searching for a while. She was different from Kegu Air, who was from the barbarian race. She was the young miss of the treasure house, and could be said to be very knowledgeable. However, he could not help but change his expression when he saw the great ape of Gen's collection. It could be seen that its collection was indeed terrifying. There are a lot of strange things. Fang Yu looked around and muttered to himself. Moreover, there was no lack of valuable items. This was not difficult to see from the eyes of his companions. Bai Wuxie, Lu Xinjian, and the others had extraordinary backgrounds, but when they saw the Gen Earth giant ape's wealth, their eyes couldn't help but shine. This is... The dragon's soul suddenly spoke. Fang Yu, take a look at this black lump. What exactly is it? After a pause, the dragon's soul hurriedly said. Is it this? Fang Yu picked up a brocade box. There was a black lump inside. It looked like a pile of dirt. A pile of dirt? When the dragon's soul saw what it was, it suddenly laughed. This is black soul dirt. Black soul dirt. Fang Yu thought for a moment and realized that this was the first time he had heard of this name. It's not strange that you don't know about it. This is because this item is not a local product of the Myriad Spirit continent. It comes from another world. I can't remember what that world is called, but it's different from us. Their cultivation starts from the soul. The 3 spiritual souls and 7 physical souls, the heaven soul, the earth soul, the human soul, and so on. That's why there are many items related to the soul in their world. Black soul dirt is one of them. The dragon's soul licked its lips and said with assurance, this item is rare even in their world. It's firmly in the hands of some big shots. Its main function is to store your separated soul and merge it tightly. It's equivalent to an avatar. Fang Yu could not help but be moved. Although he had not been in the Myriad Spirit continent for a long time, there were some words and principles that were similar to any world. Avatar, storing the soul, merging it tightly, and so on. This was the first time he understood it. Although the evil spirit's method was to separate a part of her soul and attach it to the bloodthirsty demon wolf, this method was actually very low-end. She also did not do it so easily. Moreover, it was not firm and strong enough. Otherwise, even if Fang Yu pulled her and the bloodthirsty demon wolf into the soul world, it would not be so easy to succeed and make the evil spirit suffer a double loss. Now that this item had such a magical effect, Fang Yu would be lying if he said that he was not eager to try. After all, he had just obtained the method to refine a soul treasure. Although the woman in the long dress might have lied to him, Fang Yu and the dragon's soul discussed for a long time. He even asked the super slaughter system and spent 10,0 slaughter points to have it appraise it. The appraisal result was true. The woman in the long dress did not lie to Fang Yu about the method. Therefore, if he had the chance, Fang Yu wanted to try and see what he could make. Now that the black soul soil was a rare soul material, Fang Yu naturally would not miss it. I want this item, and these spirit stones. Fang Yu shook the brocade box in his hand and pointed to a pile of fire attribute spirit stones. Oh! Everyone looked curiously. Because Fang Yu was going to give up a considerable amount of benefits. Previously, he gave it up, and now he gave it up again? Fang Yu was really generous. What kind of treasure is this? Lu Xinjian asked. She could see that this item was very special, but she was not sure what it was used for. Although she was a half-step master and was proficient in all kinds of materials, there were also different kinds of materials. With her knowledge, she could not tell the origin of this item. This was really strange. A senior asked me to help find it. I am not sure of the specific use, but the reward given by the senior was too generous. It was hard for me to refuse. Fang Yu casually made up an excuse. Although it looked like an excuse, if they were asked to find fault, they could not find any fault. Moreover, since Fang Yu was willing to give up a part of the benefits, they really had nothing to say. In the end, it was Fang Yu's credit that they were able to get this resource for free. If it were them, they would definitely not be so bold as to take advantage of the time when the level 7 demonic beast was out to steal. Only Fang Yu was so daring. Chapter 241. However, thanks to Fang Yu, they had obtained many points and resources. It was a pleasant surprise. It's about time. Let's split the loot and… Before Fang Yu could finish his sentence, his expression changed. What's wrong? Everyone asked. The great ape of Gen Earth is back, Fang Yu said seriously. This was the warning from the dragon soul. Danger, danger, danger. How could it be back so quickly? Wang Zhong was shocked. Wasn't that right? Fang Yu had calculated the speed and time of the great ape of Gen Earth before coming here. Therefore, their journey was unimpeded and they went straight for the root of the problem. Now, the great ape of Gen Earth was back. How was that possible? It was impossible for it to be so fast. Logically speaking, it should be impossible. However, there is another possibility. The dragon soul said seriously, it has the innate talent of Earth escape. Innate talent of Earth escape? Fang Yu was shocked. Isn't that a very powerful bloodline? The great ape of Gen Earth has it too? And it was activated in advance? How is that possible? There were all kinds of bloodline powers. Some were strong and some were weak. Among them, Earth escape was a very famous innate talent. Anyone who possessed this kind of talent was, without exception, an overlord of a region. It did not mean that the great ape of Gen Earth was weak. It was just that compared to other beasts with this innate talent, the great ape of Gen Earth was nothing. Now that the great ape of Gen Earth had the innate talent of Earth escape, they would be lying if they said they were not shocked. The great ape of Gen Earth might have the innate talent of Earth escape. We have to leave quickly if we don't want to fight the great ape of Gen Earth here. Fang Yu said seriously. What? Earth escape? Everyone's expression changed when they heard that. Just like how Fang Yu knew a little about Earth escape, they had also heard of this bloodline power. Earth escape combined with the great ape of Gen Earth. It was not inferior to the bloodthirsty fiend wolf at all. Let's go. Everyone took the resources without hesitation and left in a hurry. Although the distribution of the loot had not been completed yet, compared to the Gen Earth giant ape, this was just a small matter. Roar! The great ape of Gen Earth hurriedly rushed back and found that the castle had been swept clean. It immediately roared into the sky. This was what it had accumulated over the years. It was related to its continued leveling up, and there were even some rare materials that were rarely seen. Now that they were all taken away, it would be a lie if it wasn't angry. This was especially true for the great ape of Gen Earth. It had always prided itself on being a wise and powerful being among the demonic beasts. Now that its home had been stolen, how could it continue to live in peace if word got out? Rumble! A thunderous boom rang out, shattering the heavens and splitting the earth, causing everyone to shudder in fear. This is too scary. Is this the anger of the great ape of Gen Earth? Compared to the grade 8 bloodthirsty demon wolf, it's not inferior at all. Even He Ping was intimidated by the giant ape's anger. She didn't dare to imagine what the result would be if she were to fight this kind of demonic beast head-on. Now is not the time to lament. Let's go, the faster the better. Fang Yu reminded him. The great ape of Gen Earth knows how to escape through the earth. We've only left its nest. If it insists on chasing after us, it's very likely that it will catch up with us. Everyone's hearts skipped a beat as they hurried to escape. The great ape of Gen Earth stood in its nest with its arms facing the sky. Ripples spread out from its feet as if it was sensing something. The next moment, it suddenly opened its eyes and charged in a certain direction. Bam! It dove into the ground as if it was diving. Gurgle gurgle, following that, the great ape of Gen Earth chased after Fang Yu and the others at an incredible speed. It's coming. The dragon soul said hurriedly, this fellow is very powerful. It's even more powerful than the bloodthirsty demon wolf. You guys might have provoked a hornet's nest this time. Although the bloodthirsty demon wolf was powerful, if Fang Yu and the others were determined to escape, there was still a chance that they could escape unscathed. However, the great ape of Gen Earth was impossible. This fellow's speed was too fast. Bam! After that, the great ape of Gen Earth appeared and blocked Fang Yu and the others' path. So fast. Everyone was shocked. The great ape of Gen Earth's speed was indeed very fast, but this was too fast. Roar! The great ape of Gen Earth glared at Fang Yu and the others. It was these rascals who took advantage of the fact that he was out to fight to ambush him. And they even formed a team. No, there were 9 of them. They were going to form a team. If he really let them escape today, he would be too ashamed to face other demonic beasts of the same level. Fang Yu, Lu Shenzhan said in a low voice. Although the plan was proposed by Fang Yu, she would not blame Fang Yu. At this time, blaming Fang Yu would not help the situation. She only wanted a solution. If Fang Yu could solve this matter, then everything would be fine. The starting point was good, the process was good, and the result was good. However, if Fang Yu could not deal with it, then a few of them would really have to stay here. We can't leave. Let's fight. Fang Yu said seriously. That's right. If they still considered whether to retreat or to fight, it would undoubtedly speed up their deaths. In that case, there was no need to think too much. Let's fight. Seeing this, the great ape of Gen Earth sneered. Could it say that it had seen this scene many times before? In the end, all of them were killed by it without exception. The great ape of Gen Earth was too powerful. It was so powerful that ordinary martial artists were no match for it. They could not defeat it in a fight, but they could not outrun the great ape of Gen Earth either. It was hopeless. These little bugs were no exception. However, the great ape of Gen Earth changed its mind. These guys had almost embarrassed it. Could not let them go so easily. No matter if they were male or female, it would torture them before killing them. Otherwise, it would not be able to vent its anger. Bam! Before the great ape of Gen Earth could finish its thought, a huge force came at it. Bam! 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 Punches landed one after another. The great ape of Gen Earth could not find its way out. This, Fang Yu and the others were also dumbfounded. They took a closer look and saw that Lu Tianbing had attacked. Are you still hesitating? Do you want to die? Attack. Lu Tianbing said, Sister, support me. Attack. With Fang Yu's order, everyone immediately went into battle mode. Seeing this, the great ape of Gen Earth was shocked and angry. It was angry because these guys did not know what was good for them. Did they really want to fight it to the death? Not only was it talented, but it also had a strong intellect and physical body. Ordinary martial artists were no match for it. It was shocked by Lu Tianbing's power. The attack just now had actually made it feel pain, which was a rare thing. It had been a long time since it felt this way. Suddenly, it had a ridiculous thought. Could it be that it would be killed here? Chapter 242. Roar. With that thought in mind, the great ape of Gen Earth roared furiously. What the hell was I thinking? Would it be killed here? Impossible. Why is it so angry? Fang Yu and the others were confused. Although they were about to fight the great ape of Gen Earth, they had offended it again. However, it was inexplicably angrier. What the hell was going on? Forget it. Let's fight. Fang Yu was the first to attack. This was different from when they fought the bloodthirsty fiend wolf. During the battle with the bloodthirsty fiend wolf, Fang Yu had sensed that something was wrong with the bloodthirsty fiend wolf. Its entire body was filled with a demonic aura. Fang Yu instinctively raised his guard. However, the great ape of Gen Earth was only a powerful demonic beast. We've killed many powerful beasts and powerful beasts. The great ape of Gen Earth will be no exception. Fang Yu slashed with his saber. The great ape of Gen Earth sneered. Layers of yellow light appeared on its body. Hardening innate skill. Fang Yu realized something, but he still slashed with his saber. Clang. The slash created countless sparks. However, when the sparks fell, the great ape of Gen Earth was unharmed. What a terrifying defense! Fang Yu was shocked. He was well aware of the level of his saber's strike. If it was an ordinary martial grandmaster or a level 4 or level 5 beast, they would have been slaughtered. However, the great ape of Gen Earth could not even leave a mark. It was so powerful and terrifying. Don't be afraid. Lu Xuanzhan immediately summoned a few wooden snakes. They were made of special wood and emitted a strange wave. It felt as if the forest was moving. Wood counters earth. Wooden snake square formation. Lu Xuanzhan made a strange hand seal and made the 4 wooden snakes grow rapidly. Like trees, they surrounded the great ape of Gen Earth in the middle. Buzz, a gentle light spread. The great ape of Gen Earth felt a strong sense of discomfort. Roar, the great ape of Gen Earth's expression changed. It had to admit that it had encountered its most powerful opponent. There were indeed many powerful beasts in the Azure Dragon Mirror. However, it was not easy for beasts to cultivate here. The great ape of Gen Earth was one of the most intelligent beasts. It would not put itself in danger. Therefore, it only attacked those it could kill. However, although it was Fang's first, it had to admit that it had met its match. These few people were very powerful. Perhaps in a one-on-one situation, not many were its opponents, but when they worked together, they were even more difficult to deal with than the strong opponents it had encountered before. That being said, there was no turning back. Since it had chased after him and exposed so many of his trump cards, he couldn't let it go so easily. Fang Yu and the others were the same. Both sides fought fiercely, exchanging blows back and forth. For a time, neither side was willing to give way to the other, nor was they at a disadvantage. They are fighting with the Gen Earth giant ape again. The inspectors felt like their heads were about to explode. They hadn't paid attention during the day, but Fang Yu and the others had actually killed a bloodthirsty demon wolf that had leveled up at some point. What about now? They went to provoke the great ape of Gen Earth that was in charge of Blue Water City. Previously, they found it strange that the beasts around Blue Water City had suddenly become chaotic. Many warriors had attacked and killed the beasts. It was very dangerous. Later, they found out that the great ape of Gen Earth had disappeared. When they looked again, they found out that it was Fang Yu's group again. The continuous changes made the inspectors dumbfounded. They were only here to complete the mission assigned by the school. Was this necessary? What should we do? Someone looked at his colleague and asked. Wasn't that right? Although they were not here to eat and wait for death, Most of them were here to complete the mission. That was absolutely true. However, Fang Yu's group had caused trouble again and again. Or rather, they were greedy for merit and were constantly in danger. They were also in a dilemma. After all, as inspectors, it was impossible for them to ignore the situation. But even if they did, they could not spend all their time and energy on them. Therefore, they were in a difficult situation. Fang Yu's group was not even a martial spirit, but they had continuously challenged the Beast Lord, the bloodthirsty demon wolf, the great ape of Gen Earth, and so on. They were all overlords in the Azure Dragon Mirror. Let's wait and see. Maybe there will be some surprises. Another inspector said hesitantly. This was the semifinals. They could not stop Fang Yu's group and not give them any chance to show off. That's true. Everyone nodded. The only thing to worry about is that it is too early for them to be famous. Will they attract too much attention? The inspector who had just spoken said again. This time, everyone was silent, because this inspector's worry was not without reason. The selection of the 4 academies was one thing. The competition for the final exhibition match was another. It was related to the distribution of resources. It was not a child's play. Many things were very serious and serious. Fang Yu's group had made a name for themselves. The other 3 academies had probably taken notice of them. What if they defeated the great ape of Gen Earth? Thinking of this, most of the inspectors shook their heads again. Because the possibility of that happening was not high. It was not that the bloodthirsty demon wolf was much weaker than the great ape of Gen Earth. It was just that the great ape of Gen Earth was too good. The bloodthirsty demon wolf couldn't compare to the life-saving conditions, life-saving methods, and so on. Therefore, if Fang Yu's group wanted to kill the great ape of Gen Earth like how they killed the bloodthirsty demon wolf, they would not be able to do it. However, everyone has a time when they are young. As young people, of course, it is better to be more energetic. If you are overcautious and overcautious at such a young age, what's the point of it? Compared to us, they have more hope. That's why we have to look forward to it. The oldest inspector sighed and said. When they were young, they had also participated in the selection of the 4 academies. At that time, they were arrogant and were not inferior to Fang Yu's group. In fact, they were even more arrogant. Could it be said that they were not good when they were young? No. They had no regrets in their youth. At the same time, the battle between Fang Yu's group and the great ape of Gen Earth had reached its climax. Although the great ape of Gen Earth was a level 7 demonic beast, its overall strength was definitely at level 8. It was even more powerful than the bloodthirsty demon wolf that had been forcefully leveled up by the evil spirit. In the beginning, it was still fine. Both sides were fighting back and forth, and they were really on par with each other. However, as time went by, Fang Yu's group was gradually at a disadvantage. After all, they were martial artists. They were humans, but their opponents were demonic beasts. Chapter 243. As expected, in terms of physique and stamina, a demonic beast is stronger than a martial artist, not to mention a level 7 or level 8 demonic beast. Fang Yu thought to himself. In fact, this result was not strange at all. This was the real result. Fighting a level 8 demonic beast, the bloodthirsty fiend wolf, depended too much on luck. Now that they were evenly matched with the great ape of Gen Earth, it was already a good result. But if this continues, you will probably still lose. The dragon's soul reminded Fang Yu. Based on its understanding of Fang Yu still had some ways to kill the great ape of Gen Earth. However, today was the second day of the semifinals. It was only the second night, and they were already going to use all their trump cards? In that case, wouldn't these fellows be too weak and useless? In any case, Fang Yu did not seem to have any intention of using his full strength. There's no rush. Let's wait and see. Fang Yu shook his head. That's right. His teammates still had a lot of potential, and their individual combat strength was not bad. It would be a waste if he only used them for normal purposes. They deserved better. For this reason, Fang Yu was willing to spend some time and take some risks to train this team of 9 to deal with the great ape of Gen Earth. Fang Yu, what are you waiting for? Let's kill it together. Bai Wuxia was a little anxious. The great ape of Gen Earth's strength and intelligence were beyond his imagination. He dared to say that if they continued to delay, their situation would become more and more unfavorable. It was very likely that they would be defeated. Without paying a price or losing a few lives, they would not be able to escape unscathed. However, as someone who knew Fang Yu's true strength, he knew that once Fang Yu used his trump card, it would not be difficult for them to take the great ape of Gen Earth's life. Therefore, if Fang Yu did not make a move, when would he? It's not difficult to kill it. Other than me, none of you will have a hard time killing it, Fang Yu said casually. Some people's eyes flickered, but they did not reply. However, this also indirectly proved that Fang Yu was telling the truth. Other than him, there were a few other people who had the ability to kill the Gen Earth giant ape. However, these were all trump cards to save his life. It was impossible for him to use them casually. We formed a team so that we could earn more points and obtain more resources. It can be said that as long as we work together, points and resources are insignificant. Fang Yu said indifferently, but now you're just using some insignificant means. That's not interesting at all. Fang Yu, what's the meaning of this? Lu Xinjian frowned. Although she didn't use any killing moves, she also didn't hold back too much. According to what Fang Yu said, the siblings were hiding their abilities for their own benefit. This kind of slander was intolerable. I didn't say anything about you. Shut up. Fang Yu mercilessly shut Lu Xinjian up. Lu Xuzhan and his sister were very honest people. If you want them to submit to you, it will be very difficult. However, once they submit to you, they won't do anything else. Although Lu Tianbing's equipment set and Lu Xinjian's various support skills weren't all trump cards, they were still trump cards. Just based on this point, Fang Yu couldn't say anything about the siblings. In fact, he was very satisfied with their performance. He was now referring to Mo Ling and the others. There wasn't much meaning in working without putting in any effort. Mo Ling was a true prodigy. Although he wasn't as good as Fang Yu, Mo Ling wasn't weak. Now, she had become a delicate and weak girl. Who was she trying to fool? Fang Yu could tolerate it if it happened once or twice. However, if it happened 3 or 4 times and they still didn't put in any effort, it would be different. This was disrespectful. He didn't mind disrespecting Fang Yu. Fang Yu didn't care about such small matters. However, given the current situation, it was a little too much if they still didn't do anything. Fang Yu didn't think that he was a petty person. However, the way they treated their teammates was unacceptable. Especially when they reached the core area, they would have to fight with the Monster Kings. These 7 days are at most a warm-up and preparation. The real opportunity to break through to martial spirit is in the hands of the Monster Kings. Is it really okay for you to do this? Fang Yu asked slowly. Mo Ling smiled. Then what do you want? Within 100 breaths, cooperate with me and kill the great ape of Gen Earth. I don't want the points, but you can't treat your teammates as fools. Fang Yu said seriously. His appearance made people shudder. Okay. Mo Ling pondered for a while and agreed. She had a rough understanding of Fang Yu's temperament. If they didn't behave now, there might be some things that they didn't want to face. Mo Ling was actually very strong. In a team of 9, Mo Ling didn't even care about Bai Wuxia. However, even so, Mo Ling was still unwilling to face the angry Fang Yu. Now that Fang Yu wanted them to come clean and lay their cards on the table, what else could she do? She could only do as she was told. I will create an opportunity for you guys. When the opportunity appears, I will delay it. I can take over control. He Ping, Wang Zhong, and Bai Wuxia all expressed their opinions. They had indeed held back. That was the truth. Originally, they thought that Fang Yu's team was just a formality. What happened next would be up to fate. Since that was the case, there was no need to spend too much effort. There was no need for that. However, now that Fang Yu had made his stance clear, it was clear that he had plans for the long-term development of this team. At the very least, they would go to the core area and snatch the martial spirit realm from the Monster Kings. With Fang Yu's sincerity, they didn't want to continue hiding their strength. Even if they didn't use all their trump cards, they still had to use some of their strength. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to answer to Fang Yu. Although they trusted Fang Yu now, they were also in awe of Fang Yu. The main reason was that Fang Yu was too powerful and mysterious. In some aspects, he was also very generous. For example, in the current situation, with Fang Yu's words, they could no longer continue to hide their strength. Lu Shuzhan looked deeply at Fang Yu. Sure enough, this man is more suitable to be the leader of this group than I am. Seeing this, the great ape of Gen Earth sneered. It could understand Fang Yu's series of actions. It could even understand Fang Yu's conversation. It just found it funny and wanted to laugh. Were Fang Yu and the rest serious? Seriously attacking, creating an opportunity, and delaying it. This was simply too hilarious. These guys were already at their limits and couldn't continue. They would probably die under its hands soon. How dare they say such nonsense? What a joke! Chapter 244. Since that's the case, let's do it. With Fang Yu's command, the order of attack changed. He Ping took the lead, Wang Zhong followed closely behind, and Bai Wuxia brought up the rear. Lu Tianbing and Lu Shuzhan did not stay idle either. They stood at the side and watched. Fang Yu's intention was clear. He wanted to kill the giant ape in the blink of an eye. This was a difficult task. Very, very difficult. Lu Shuzhan did not even consider it. If it were her, she would try to fight. If she could not win, she would run. There was nothing to be embarrassed about. After all, the giant ape was too strong. It was stronger than an ordinary Class 7 demonic beast in all aspects. Such an existence was not something a martial spirit could deal with. Even if the siblings had some powerful means, they would not consider such a thing. It had to be said that Fang Yu was very bold. Moreover, he was very careful. If it were Lu Shenzhan, she would not have said such words to Bai Wuxia and the others under such circumstances. It was too demoralizing. Moreover, it might not have the desired effect. That was why Lu Shuzhan said that Fang Yu was stronger than her. Killing fist. 100 consecutive strikes. He Ping was like a cannon that never stopped, constantly blasting out her own attack. Her attacks were too fast and too sharp. Even the powerful giant ape was caught off guard. It was very confused. The dragon's soul was shocked. Although this opening was similar to the previous one, it was completely different. Lu Tianbing was very strong. The dragon's soul had to admit this. However, He Ping's killing fist was endless. Her killing intent was getting stronger and stronger. Not only was she suppressing the giant ape, but she was also affecting her companions. Killing fist. This is He Ping's self-created fist technique. However, until now, she only has the framework. It's not enough. She doesn't have much inspiration in this area. Lu Shuzhan said softly. Bell. Suppress. Heaven. Down. Wang Zhong took over and said word by word. Boom. The giant bell pressed down, and its momentum was even stronger than before. The Gung Earth giant ape felt dizzy as the sound waves cut its body. Countless rocks flew into the air. This attack actually broke the giant ape's hardening talent. Terrifying! Feng Yaoguang exclaimed. This was very different from before. Was this the strength they were serious about? Evil spirit possession. Bai Wuxia's body was surrounded by a strange black qi. Bone spikes, sharp claws, and fangs grew out of his body. Ping's appearance make him look like a ghost. Interesting. His grandfather, the White Divine General. Feng Yu's eyes lit up. If Bai Wuxie did not hide his strength, even if Feng wanted to win, it would not be so easy. That's why it's said that acting tough is harmful. Bang. Bang, bang, Bai's the opportunity. Under Bai Wuxie's relentless bombardment, the Gen Earth giant ape began to bleed. It's not the case, it's not. These fellows, these humans, didn't they use their true strength before? Was this their true strength? Bai's. SSS. How could there be such a human? Bang! In the next moment, the giant ape used the earth escape technique and left. It did not want the item anymore. If it continued to stay, it would die. You can't escape. Mo Ling took a step forward. The yin-yang 8 trigrams spread out under her feet. 1. The yin-yang 8 trigrams quickly enlarged to the point where it could almost encompass the entire forest. Bang! In the next moment, the Gen Earth giant ape, which had escaped through the earth, appeared in front of them. Everyone was shocked, because this move was simply too terrifying. If they were Mo Ling's enemies, they would not even have the chance to escape. Did it have to be so terrifying? Go! Feng Yu ordered those who had not attacked yet to attack with him. Roar! The giant ape knew that it was going to die here today. Hence, it wanted to fight with all its might. If it fought with all its might, it might be able to survive. If he was overcautious and didn't attack with his full strength, he would only end up dead. Wooden snake, seal it. Immobilization talisman. Lu Xinzhan and Feng Yaoguang attacked continuously. They did not give the giant ape any chance to attack. This was the climax of the battle. Every second could end the battle. They could not afford to be careless. Bang! Bang! Kager and Lu Tianbing attacked the great ape of Gen Earth's arms and legs respectively. This kind of monstrous attack caused the Grade 7 Great Ape of Gen Earth to show a pained expression as it begged for mercy. It admitted defeat. It only wanted to live. Azure Dragon enters the sea. Feng Yu, who had descended from the sky, landed on the Gen Earth giant ape's head. Crack! The sound of bones breaking made the giant ape's eyes dim. Feng Yu, don't waste it! The dragon soul suddenly thought of something and said, keep it, soul. Don't waste it. Alright. Feng Yu activated the pages of the soul book and absorbed the Gen Earth giant ape's soul that was about to dissipate. It's already 23%. Feng Yu was surprised to find that the page of the soul book had recovered another 3%. This thing should be similar to a living creature. It has extremely high spirituality and even has a certain self-healing ability. It's just that it was too strong before, so it didn't have any self-healing effect. However, after continuously absorbing powerful souls, it more or less recovered a little. If you continue to feed it powerful souls, it will naturally have some additional effects. The dragon's soul was deep in thought. Although it was unreliable at times, as a being that had once become a sage, its knowledge of the myriad spirit continent was above Feng Yu's. I see. Feng Yu was enlightened. Did we really kill the giant ape? We were clearly in a fierce battle. We were even at a disadvantage. Feng Yaoguang was shocked. Everything had happened too quickly. She did not even realize what had happened. We did it. Within 100 breaths, we killed the giant ape that had more than one talent. Mo Ling's eyes were also shining as she spoke proudly. This was the first time she had encountered something like this. What kind of technique did you use just now? It's so powerful, Feng Yaoguang asked. She did not like how Mo Ling had purposely gotten close to Feng Yu and even acted intimately with him for her own benefit. Even though Feng Yaoguang and Feng Yu only had an ordinary working relationship, she still could not stand it. However, this did not stop her from admiring Mo Ling. A person's strength and character were not absolutely related. Furthermore, Mo Ling was not a bad person. She did not hate this so-called love rival that much. Chapter 245. It's just a small trick. The main thing is that we changed the direction of its spiritual power. Mo Ling chuckled and spoke bluntly. The direction of its spiritual power? Everyone understood this term, but when it was used here, it was somewhat unclear. Yes, the direction of its spiritual power. Mo Ling explained. In fact, many techniques like the 8 trigrams and 8 trigrams are not as mysterious as you think. In essence, they just change the direction of one's spiritual power. Therefore, the great ape of Gen Earth appeared in front of us of its own accord. Hearing this, everyone was enlightened. So that's how it is. No wonder the great ape of Gen Earth suddenly turned around and came to them. So there were such twists and turns. Killing the great ape of Gen Earth gives me 3,500 points. It's not much lower than the bloodthirsty demon wolf. Fang Yu said in surprise. Generally speaking, points were determined by the level of the demonic beast. The higher the level of the demonic beast, the more points one would get after killing it. Therefore, Fang Yu thought that the great ape of Gen Earth would only get around 2,000 to 3,000 points. He did not expect it to be as high as 3,500 points. Don't think that it was just 500 points higher. In fact, the points one could get from killing demonic beasts of various levels was very limited. In other words, the second round had a lot of restrictions on how to get points from low-level demonic beasts. After all, the selection of the 4 academies was not a child's play. What was the point of staring at low-level demonic beasts all day long? Wouldn't such a person become a laughingstock if word got out? Unless he could exterminate thousands of demonic beasts with a raise of his hand. However, those who could do that were definitely not just martial grandmasters or martial spirits. If he had the strength of a martial king now, what was the point of the selection? Wouldn't it be better to just be specially recruited? After Fang Yu distributed the points evenly, his points increased again. Seeing Fang Yu's points increase again, everyone was dumbfounded. It was night time. Where did Fang Yu go to get points so late at night? Looking at the increase in points, I must have killed at least one Class 7 demonic beast. Which Class 7 demonic beast was killed? But we're in the middle of the beast tide now. If we want to kill the 7th grade demonic beast, we have to go through its subordinate. Even if Fang Yu and the rest are very strong, it's still not very possible for them to directly attack the enemy in the middle of the beast tide. That's right, then what's up with their points? While everyone was puzzled, the martial artists of Blue Water City already knew the answer. Yes, it's the great ape of Gen Earth. It must have been killed. Some people couldn't help but swallow their saliva. This was because they discovered that just before Fang Yu's points increased, the monsters suddenly became even more chaotic. After the Gen Earth giant ape had mysteriously retreated, their formation had become unstable. It was also because of this that the number of martial artists who insisted on going out to hunt monstrous beasts increased greatly. In desperation, they could only let them go out to slaughter monstrous beasts. However, as onlookers, they were clear that after Fang Yu's points increased, the monsters were in a mess. Even the martial grandmaster level monsters were in a mess. It must be the Gen Earth giant ape. After confirming the answer in their hearts, they couldn't help but tremble when they saw Fang Yu's name. This man was too scary. If this continued, wouldn't he be first in the semifinals? Although today was only the second day of the semifinals, it was still only the second day. Fang Yu's performance was already so monstrous. Even if he didn't end up first and couldn't reach the summit, he would still be as steady as a dog in the finals. With this thought, the sense of crisis increased greatly. At this moment, somewhere in the Azure Dragon Institute, someone quietly crushed a jade talisman. In the Vermilion Bird Institute, a barefooted woman sitting quietly in the main hall noticed the movement of the token and took it out to take a look. It was a piece of news. Azure Dragon Institute, Fang Yu's rise. He has been first on the list for 2 consecutive days. Currently, he has killed 2 martial grandmasters. After reading out the news, the barefooted woman's expression changed slightly. It wasn't strange for him to be first on the list for 2 consecutive days. Once the list came out, there would definitely be a ranking. If some lucky people were lucky enough to be first on the list for 2 consecutive days, it wouldn't be strange. However, to be able to kill 2 martial spirit beasts, that was unusual. Then, she browsed through the rest of the news and fell into deep thought. I didn't expect the Azure Dragon Institute to have such a rising star. According to our usual practice, this is the seeded contestant they have chosen? Interesting. The barefooted woman muttered to herself, I thought only little Bing was so outstanding and outstanding. Now, there is also Fang Yu. If nothing happens to him, he will probably be the opponent in the exhibition round. I wonder how little Bing is doing. As she spoke, the barefooted woman opened the Vermilion Bird Institute's list. The first on the list was Bing Yuxia. The 4 great institutes used a point system in the semifinals. However, the difference between Bing Yuxia and Fang Yu was that Bing Yuxia's current points exceeded 5,000. 5,560 points. Not bad, not bad. It seems that she also killed 2 martial grandmasters. Seeing this, the barefooted woman nodded in satisfaction. Little Bing was still very powerful. She was the disciple she was most satisfied with. She had taken in 10 disciples and little Bing was the 10th. The first 9 had left a thick mark in the history of the Vermilion Bird Institute. However, she dared to say that Bing Yuxia would be the strongest one. She would leave the thickest mark. Vermilion Bird Institute within the semifinals. Katja, a young girl in a blue and white dress, passed by and frost formed everywhere she went. Under her feet were all frozen demonic beasts. With a glance, there were hundreds and thousands of them. Is this Bing Yuxia's doing? It's too scary. A tall and thin woman saw Bing Yuxia from afar and couldn't help but feel fear in her heart. Bing Yuxia was too terrifying. She had never seen such a terrifying and sharp peer. Who would have thought that Bing Yuxia would become a martial grandmaster on the first day she entered? This speed was obviously because she was incomparably compatible with this place, or it could be said that she was recognized by the spirit. What kind of unique luck was this? This kind of person was 1 in a million. Although it was only the second day of the semifinals, all the preparatory members of the Vermilion Bird Institute who were participating in the semifinals had already confirmed that the first place was definitely Bing Yuxia. She was different from people like them. So boring, it seems that I can only look forward to the exhibition match. Bing Yuxia muttered to herself. In fact, she felt that the semi-finals were meaningless. She would definitely be the first, definitely the first. Therefore, this was just a process. It was completely meaningless and would delay her for an entire month. Now, she could only hope that there would be some good opponents during the exhibition match. Otherwise, it would be too boring. Chapter 246. Black Tortoise Academy. Oh? Fang Yu? I've never heard of this kid before. He's really a dark horse. A bare-chested bald man said drunkenly as he played with his wine cup. This was the news from the informant they had arranged in Azure Dragon Academy. This kind of behavior could be said to be an unspoken rule, because doing this was not to investigate any secrets, but merely to understand the changes that had happened in the second round. After all, sometimes information was equivalent to everything. No matter what, even if they didn't arrange any informants, they still had 8 to 10 methods to obtain some basic information. In this way, it was better to let it go than to block it. It was better to be natural and unrestrained and let them arrange their informants. Therefore, this kind of thing that they were well aware of was not worth mentioning. They even wanted to see the shocked expression on the other party's face after hearing this news. How fun would that be? Fang Yu. Azure Dragon Academy is a bit strange. Maybe it's Vice Principal Wang's trump card? The bald man said again. He naturally knew that the true principal of Azure Dragon Academy was missing. Everything was controlled by Vice Principal Wang. Therefore, if there was someone who arranged all of this, it would definitely be Vice Principal Wang. But soon, he continued to gulp down the wine. There was no other reason. Azure Dragon Academy's Fang Yu was good. Vermilion Bird Academy's Bing Yuxia was also good. They were not a threat to their Black Tortoise Academy. Even if Bing Yuxia was very strong, it was still the same. Here we have a burp. There's a little guy who was born with a Holy Spirit. As the bald man muttered to himself, he revealed a proud expression. A companion Holy Spirit, as the name implied, was born with a Holy Spirit as a companion. This was something that depended on life and death. Holy Spirits were different from demonic beasts. They were even rarer. Now, this disciple of his was number 1. Number 1, isn't this natural? Gulp gulp. The bald man continued to drink. However, he remembered the name Fang Yu. Fang Yu humph. Different from the reactions of the Vermilion Bird Academy and Black Tortoise Academy's higher-ups, the White Tiger Academy's higher-ups glanced at the news and stopped reading. Their White Tiger Academy was destined to be the strongest. The rest were all just stepping stones. Since that was the case, what else was there to see? Just one look was enough. Our people are stronger. This woman with sharp eyes looked at the light screen and stared at her only disciple. Roar! He saw a human figure moving stealthily like a cheetah. With a loud roar, he directly pounced on a level 7 demonic beast and pierced its throat with his claw. It was a human-shaped demonic beast. Her fierceness can make her stronger, but, the woman muttered to herself with a slight frown. She believed that her disciple was definitely the one with the strongest attack power among all the people selected by the 4 great academies this time. This was because she had been raised by a martial emperor-level demonic beast. He was a hybrid of a human and a demon beast. What was even more shocking was that the bloodline in her body was extremely pure, extremely close to the White Tiger godly beast of their White Tiger Institute. Through the White Tiger's confirmation, her White Tiger bloodline was extremely close to his own bloodline. It would not be an exaggeration to say that she was a descendant of the White Tiger Academy's guardian beast, the White Tiger. Because of this, the White Tiger Divine Beast had personally stimulated the White Tiger bloodline in her body so that she could take first place in the semifinals. Now, the advantage of the bloodline was gradually showing. Under the deterrence of the White Tiger bloodline, killing a martial spirit-level demonic beast was no different from killing a chicken or a dog. However, the White Tiger bloodline was too strong, she could not control herself. This was a big problem. If she could not solve it, although it could not be said to be endless trouble, it was still a great hidden danger. The worst thing is that killing is not allowed in the exhibition competition. Otherwise, she could just release her fierceness and kill all her opponents. What a pity! The woman sighed softly. She was very clear that if she killed someone in the exhibition competition, the other academies would not rest until they were dead. Those who could enter the exhibition competition were all existences that the various academies had high hopes for. If they were killed, the consequences would be unimaginable. Although she believed that this woman would be the leader of the revival, killing a genius as a sacrifice was a good choice. However, it was still too risky. Fang Yu did not know that his name had already spread to the eyes and ears of the 4 great academies' higher-ups. He did not know, nor did he care. Although they only remembered the name Fang Yu and did not think much about it. However, it was already an honor to be remembered by the higher-ups of the 4 great academies during the selection. If he could really stay until the end, and if he matched the cultivation method of the other academies, it was not impossible to exchange it with them. Being remembered by the higher-ups was an additional opportunity. Let's go back and wait for dawn. Fang Yu made a decision. Although killing the Gen Earth Giant Ape made them feel a little more dependent on this team, Fang Yu still understood the principle that too much strength made it easier to break. Moreover, they were indeed tired tonight. Okay. No one objected. Although they did not use all their trump cards tonight, they still spent a lot of energy. Even if it was a good choice to take advantage of the situation in one go, they were not willing to waste this energy. Fang Yu and the others returned to the nest of the Gen Earth Giant Ape and rested for a while. I'll rest for a while, Fang Yu said. Okay. No one doubted or said anything. This was because Fang Yu had led them to kill 2 martial spirit level monsters in a row today. It would be a lie to say that he was not tired. After all, they were not mechanical puppets. They were all made of flesh and blood, so they would be tired eventually. What they did not know was that after Fang Yu closed his eyes to rest, his consciousness entered his ring. King! Your Highness Fang Yu! Klein and the others quickly bowed to Fang Yu. Now Fang Yu was their king. This was their king's hope, and also their hope to return to the elemental continent in the future. Not to mention, after Fang Yu became the owner of the Elf King's ring, they found that the space inside was much more stable. This was all thanks to Fang Yu. Not to mention that he was already the Elf King. Before he became the Elf King, he was in perfect condition. This was much better than Wang Chong, who was struggling to support their clan. Thinking of their king who had passed away, all of them showed a sad expression without exception. It was too sad. Their king had passed away, and they had to rely on themselves. Although Fang Yu was protecting them, he had made a deal with their king. They instinctively worshipped the Elf King, but they could not forget their original king. Seeing this, Fang Yu felt a little helpless. It was not the first day he received the Elf King's mark. He knew better than many people what kind of creatures elves were. Chapter 247. Because of this, he wouldn't say much. He just felt a little helpless. Alright, let's cut to the chase. I'm here to ask about your current situation. Fang Yu went back to the topic. We've awakened our clansmen one after another, according to your instructions, from the strongest to the weakest. Klein answered. Speaking of which, he was the one who brought Fang Yu into the space of their clan. Although it wasn't like inviting a wolf into the house, it still felt weird when he thought about it sometimes. All right. Fang Yu nodded and took out an item, saying, try to absorb it. This was a fire attribute spirit stone, which he collected from the monster's lair. The quality was beyond imagination. However, it was normal when he thought about it. All the warriors who came to participate in the semi-finals were fully prepared. Many times, life and death were decided in an instant. If they hesitated or something, they would have to give it away for nothing. Therefore, for equipment, materials, and other aspects, if possible, they had to be the best. For example, by absorbing the power of spirit stones to restore oneself, there was definitely a difference in absorption speed and recovery degree between ordinary spirit stones and better quality spirit stones. If there were conditions, it would be best to exchange the spirit stones for something of a higher quality. Of course, Fang Yu didn't do that. Firstly, he didn't need it. This was closely related to Fang Yu's fighting style. Secondly, his original intention was to travel with Feng Yaoguang. Who was Feng Yaoguang? She was the young miss of Zhenbao Tower. It was just a spirit stone, he could just take it from Feng Yaoguang. All right. Klein tried to absorb the spirit stone that Fang Yu handed over, and then his eyes lit up. Your Highness Fang Yu, this is, it seems that the effect is better than I thought. Fang Yu was deep in thought. I know that fire elves rely on the flame energy in their bodies to survive. This spirit stone can provide enough flame energy for you to not only survive, but also strengthen yourselves. This. Thank you, Your Highness Fong Yu. Klein immediately knelt down on one knee. Perhaps this was something that Fong Yu did casually, but to them it was like a new lease on life. All these years, they had only been able to maintain the most basic of survival. Cultivation and whatnot were just wishful thinking. This was a space built by the former Elf King. The former Elf King couldn't even take care of himself. He had to pay a huge price to maintain the survival of his people. It was simply a fantasy to say that this was a place for cultivation. Fong Yu suddenly felt a warm current flowing into his body. Fong Yu was shocked. He had never had such a feeling before. Ding! Congratulations to the host for obtaining the approval of the Fire Sprite *1. Ding! Host has initiated the mission. Path to the Fairy Emperor. Ding! The first part of the Path to the Fairy Emperor mission is to obtain the recognition of 100 fire spirits. Mission? Fong Yu couldn't help showing a strange expression, but he didn't have any doubts. This was because he understood every single word that the Super Slaughter system said. For example, his elf emperor was not a real elf emperor. A martial saint's body and spirit had merged into one. Both their spiritual energy and physical body had reached the martial saint level. It was the same for a real elf emperor. However, Fong Yu had only upgraded his imprint. He was still far from reaching the standard of the elf emperor. Now that he had initiated the path to the Fairy Emperor mission, could it be ding? Host has completed the first part of the mission. You can activate the Fire Spirit's bloodline power. Hearing that, Fong Yu's eyes lit up. The Elf Emperor was a very powerful existence. However, with just the imprint, the power that could be unleashed was very limited. However, with the bloodline power, it was different. Even with the most basic Fire Spirit's bloodline power, with the support of the Elf Emperor's imprint, it was easy to beat up the Fire Spirit General who was in such a weak state. Don't think that Fong Yu could easily suppress Alice and the rest without any effort. In fact, it was still the Elf Emperor's imprint that suppressed them. At most, it could only do so much. But if I have the Fire Spirit's bloodline power, I can fight head-on. Fong Yu's eyes were blazing. You guys try it too, Fong Yu said to Alice and the rest. As expected, he instantly gained the recognition of 3 fire spirits. Where are the people that you have awakened? I'll go take a look at them. Fong Yu cleared his throat and said seriously. Alright, Your Highness Fong Yu, please. Klein hesitated for a moment, but still led the way for Fong Yu. Fong Yu didn't mind Klein's hesitation. The reason why Klein was hesitating was that these people had been in a deep sleep for many years. When they woke up, even their king had changed. How many people would be able to accept such a thing? Even if Klein and the rest repeatedly persuaded them, it wouldn't have much effect. This was the main reason for Klein's hesitation. No matter what, Fong Yu was now their emperor. If the people were to be disrespectful to the emperor, the consequences would be unimaginable. He also didn't dare to imagine what kind of situation it would be. Therefore, he wanted to further persuade his people before arranging a meeting. However, now that Fong Yu had requested it, he could only comply. A new king after the king died. I think Klein and the rest have also fallen. They must have been bewitched by the creatures of this world to be like this. Who knows, the death of our king might have something to do with them. A fire spirit whose entire body was emitting flames said angrily. Its aura was very powerful, and it was very young. It was a fire spirit with great potential. As long as the conditions were right and there was enough time, it was certain that it would become a fire spirit general. Leonard, don't say that, another female fire spirit hurriedly persuaded. Their king was dead, and they still had to rely on Klein and the new king. No, the new emperor. If they offended them, they wouldn't have a good ending. Moreover, they were only ordinary fire spirit. They weren't even fire spirit generals, so how could they have the right to question them? Amanda, you may be afraid of them, but I'm not. One day, I, Leonard, will be above them, and even above our so-called emperor. Leonard revealed a mocking expression. In his opinion, the death of their king was a huge matter. If it was related to Feng Yu and couldn't be separated, then he couldn't let Feng Yu off. But what did these fellows do? Why did they bow down to them? They were a disgrace to the fire spirits. And what emperor? He, Leonard, swore that one day he would teach them a lesson and make them pay the price completely. You're Leonard? Suddenly, an interested voice sounded, giving Leonard and Amanda a fright. Who are you? Could you be our emperor, His Highness Feng Yu? After Amanda recovered from her shock, she quickly reacted. Chapter 248. Yes, he's His Highness Feng Yu. Klein was already extremely respectful to Feng Yu. This was the Fire Fairy clan's empress. He believed that Feng Yu would definitely lead them back to the elemental continent. Definitely. It's him. Leonard was shocked and felt a little guilty. After all, he was still very weak. He was only a fire elf and an ordinary clansman. Now that he was facing so many fire elf generals and even an elven king, it would be a lie to say that he was not guilty. Your Highness, Leonard is talking nonsense. Amanda quickly knelt down. In the elven race, the hierarchy was very strict. Ordinary elves who were disrespectful to a general would be directly executed, let alone their new king, His Highness Feng Yu. Don't worry, I'm not angry. Leonard, I want to ask, what do you think of me becoming your king? Feng Yu went back to the topic. Oh. Seeing this, Leonard was slightly taken aback. Was he hallucinating? Feng Yu was not going to hold him accountable? No way. So benevolent. No. It must be a conspiracy. Leonard was certain that Feng Yu was putting on an act. It was impossible for him to treat them sincerely. If Feng Yu had been their emperor from the very beginning, then everything would have been fine. However, Feng Yu was a guy who became a fire elf halfway through. How could such a person treat them with sincerity? I presume that the fire elf generals were similarly pressured and intimidated by Feng Yu, and that's why they submitted. Can you cultivate? Feng Yu asked. I can cultivate, of course. Leonard did not understand why Feng Yu would ask such a question, but he still answered with his neck straightened. In fact, Feng Yu could see that he was blushing a little. This was because the former elven king could barely maintain everyone's basic survival. How could he spare the energy to support their cultivation? If they wanted to cultivate, they would undoubtedly have to drink the blood and eat the flesh of the former elven king. How could they bear to treat their king like that? Unfortunately, even so, their king still fell. Although it was to give them a better future. However, death was death. This was the truth. However, the last time he cultivated was probably hundreds or thousands of years ago. Therefore, Leonard was really embarrassed to answer Feng Yu's question. Try it. Feng Yu casually tossed a fire attribute spirit stone to Leonard. This is. Leonard hurriedly took it, but he couldn't recognize what it was. Because spiritual stones were a special product of the myriad spirit continent, Feng Yu had never seen one in the profound sky world. In that case, it wasn't strange that the elemental continent didn't have any either. This is the cultivation resource of this world. You just have to do what you normally do and try to absorb external energy. Klein explained. The other fire elf generals had become mere decorations. However, this wasn't surprising. They weren't as familiar with Feng Yu as they were with Klein. On the other hand, they were extremely respectful towards Feng Yu. He didn't dare to do anything that crossed the line. Even Alice didn't dare to show the slightest bit of disrespect. Okay. Leonard nodded and tried to absorb it. As soon as he absorbed it, Leonard felt the difference. The spiritual stone in his hand quickly turned into a pile of powder and turned into an endless stream of energy that fused into his body. Leonard was so shocked that he couldn't speak. Fang Yu's heart also moved, because at this instant, he'd obtained the acknowledgement of another fire spirit. This guy is really, Fang Yu thought in his heart. Leonard looked like an unforgiving person with his mouth, but he was actually a very simple guy. As long as he could allow them to survive and cultivate, he would acknowledge him as the king. This made Fang Yu a little excited. In this way, he had hope of completely activating the Fire Elf Emperor's physique. Don't look at how Fang Yu already had the Fire Elf Emperor's physique. It was actually useless. This had a lot to do with the elf's physique. In order to activate it, there were two conditions. First, the elf mark. This was something that was imprinted in the elf's soul. It was a sign that you belonged to the elf race. Second, the bloodline. The bloodline could not be strong, but at the very least, it had to be there. Otherwise, so what if you had the mark and the physique? There was still no way to start. Fang Yu was very powerful, but he was not powerful enough to create a bloodline out of nothing. Otherwise, why would he participate in the second round? He could just fiddle around all day and add a series of bloodlines to himself. However, reality was cruel. Fang Yu did not have this kind of ability. Thus, the Elf Emperor's mission was to help him fill in the gaps. What is the Super Slaughter System's goal? Fang Yu could not help but think about this question. He did not believe that a pie would fall from the sky. However, from the current situation, Fang Yu was still too weak. He was not even a martial spirit, so to the Super Slaughter System, he did not have much meaning. Then what did it want him to do? Fang Yu could not understand. Let's take it one step at a time. Fang Yu quickly threw this question to the back of his mind. He understood himself too well. Facing this kind of question, Fang Yu was definitely not someone who could quietly think for a while and have an answer. Since that was the case, what was there to think about? He did not think about it at all. Thank you, Your Highness. Leonard thanked Fang Yu sincerely. Leonard, Amanda's small mouth opened. She was so shocked that she could not speak. She did not think that Leonard's true feelings would come so quickly. Just a moment ago, he was still talking about words. How did it become true in the blink of an eye? His Highness Fang Yu is a wise ruler. He is a wise ruler like our previous king, Leonard said seriously. But before you were still, Amanda was a little confused. That was before. Now is now. Leonard said seriously. Previously, I did not experience the greatness of His Highness Fang Yu. It was my fault. I beg His Highness Fang Yu to forgive my ignorance. Leonard's ashamed expression made Fang Yu's expression strange. Although the effect was not bad, this guy was a little too dramatic. I forgive you. Fang Yu pondered for a while and replied in an official manner. Thank you, Your Highness. Leonard was very grateful. I beg Your Highness to allow me to spread the great and benevolent flame for you. Okay. Fang Yu hesitated for a while before nodding in agreement. He really needed the fire spirit's approval. It would be best if he could get 100 of them at once. The problem was that if he did it personally, he would need to spend a lot of time and energy. Moreover, he was the Spirit Emperor, who was one level higher than the Spirit King. How could he not have a sense of mystery? Therefore, it wasn't a bad choice to leave this matter to Leonard. Chapter 249. Seeing this, Alice and the others were slightly surprised. The way they looked at Fang Yu had indeed changed. They revered Fang Yu, but not to the extent of loving Fang Yu. It was also because of this that they were shocked to see Fang Yu forgive Leonard's disrespect and repay evil with kindness. How could someone be so magnanimous? Was this the Elf Emperor? At this moment, they felt ashamed. You guys go and rest. Let Klein be in charge. With that, Fang Yu took out a pile of fire attribute spirit stones that were obviously better and said, I might need you to help me in the future. You have to improve your strength as soon as possible. Yes, Your Highness. Alice and the others responded in unison. They were also in urgent need of cultivation and wanted to become stronger. Now that Fang Yu had taken the initiative to give them this opportunity, they couldn't ask for more. Although Klein wasn't arranged to cultivate. However, he, who had vaguely sensed something, was even more excited. He might be able to reach the heavens in one step. The elf kings of the past all had their own personal guard. The previous king's personal guards were all killed in the great battle, and many of them died during the journey. His Highness Fang Yu is the new elf emperor, and he seems to have many stories. In short, his personal guards are not here. Klein immediately imagined a lot of scenarios. Fang Yu could tell what Klein was thinking, but he smiled and didn't say anything. Because Klein was right. He did need to form his own personal guards. Klein was only a fire elf general. In terms of level, he was a little lacking, but Fang Yu still had a lot of spirit stones. He believed that even if he used spirit stones, he could increase Klein's level. This was the tyranny of the rich. Take the myriad spirit continent as an example. Many rich kids with mediocre talent could still become martial masters or even martial grandmasters. This was because they spent all the money they could to increase their rank. Then, when they faced the threshold, they were indeed one step faster and had more time to think and comprehend. It wasn't that this method was absolutely useful, but in most cases it did have a certain advantage. Klein, work hard. I'm in urgent need of people that I can use. And you, compared to Alice and the rest, are a little stronger. At the very least, in terms of foresight, that's how it is. Fang Yu still revealed a little to Klein. In terms of talent, Klein was definitely at the bottom among the 4 fire sprite generals. However, he and Fang Yu were brought together by fate, and he had good taste. This gave Klein an advantage. As long as Klein grew up in peace, with Fang Yu's blessing, it would only be a matter of time before he surpassed Alice and the rest. Of course, Fang Yu still wanted to recruit Alice and the others. After all, even if he recruited all 4 fire elf generals, it wouldn't be enough to form a personal guard. It could only be said that Klein was one step ahead of them. As long as nothing went wrong, the captain of the guards would be his. As for Leonard and Amanda, they would be groomed for the time being. Fang Yu still had a long way to go if he wanted to restore the prestige of the fire elves. Thank you, Your Highness. Leonard, who had just thought of how to persuade his compatriots, hurriedly thanked Fang Yu when he saw him take out a small mountain of fire attribute spirit stones. Because it was very, very difficult to persuade others with just one mouth. If he brought fire attribute spirit stones along, then the success rate would be 100%. He believed that no one would be able to refuse a chance to cultivate after waiting for such a long time. The life of the fire elves was too long. In their long lives, there weren't many things that could interest them. Cultivation was one of them. Fang Yu's move was to their liking. It was like the sun shining on them, so they had no reason to refuse. In the end, they would definitely kowtow to Fang Yu. Watching the excited Leonard walk away, Fang Yu smiled at Amanda and said, "You're not going? Me?" Amanda pointed at herself. She didn't expect His Highness Fang Yu to talk to her. Yes, Leonard is not bad, but he's too impulsive sometimes. I'll be more at ease if you follow him. Fang Yu didn't mince his words. He wasn't stupid. How could he, who had lived 2 lives, not tell that Amanda was Leonard's childhood sweetheart? As the saying went, when men and women worked together, they wouldn't be tired. He still needed time to win over the hearts of so many fire elves. He couldn't ask for more help. Thank you for your praise, Your Highness. Amanda was in fear and trepidation. I promised the late Emperor that I would bring you back to the elemental continent, but before that, we have a lot of things to do. We have to be united in order to succeed. For this, your help is especially important to me. Fang Yu and Amanda chatted. Leonard was suitable to be his general, while Amanda was more suitable to be a manager and a superior. Therefore, there were some things that he might as well say to Amanda than to Leonard. Klein, you will be in charge of the resources I send over, and Amanda will be your assistant. Leonard will do his best. Fang Yu briefly explained the operation of this place to them. It was the second round of the examination, and he had a lot of things to do. It was impossible for him to keep paying attention to this place. Therefore, some things had to be arranged. Yes, Klein hurriedly replied. Klein's combat strength was at the bottom of the 4 fire elf generals. However, his IQ wasn't at the bottom. How could he not see that Fang Yu wanted to focus on nurturing Amanda and Leonard? This kind of thing could be said to be good fortune and enviable. However, Klein understood it very well. The reason was very simple. He was thought highly of because of this. It could only be said that Leonard and Amanda were lucky. In the blink of an eye, a full hour had passed. When Fang Yu stood in front of the bustling hundreds of fire elves, he had already completed the first round of the mission, the recognition of 100 fire elves. Fang Yu was a little excited. This was because he had already sensed the burning and boiling fire elf bloodline in his body. This was the same as the fire elemental bloodline in the myriad spirit continent. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that they came from the same source. In short, Fang Yu would be able to achieve twice the results with half the effort if he practiced any fire elemental martial arts or cultivation methods from now on. This was the benefit of the bloodline power. Now, the imprint, physique, and bloodline, these 3 major components had been gathered. Even now, the fire elf bloodline is still the most ordinary kind. It's very difficult to forcefully activate the fire elf emperor's physique. However, under the influence of the Fire Elf Emperor's imprint, my Fire Elf bloodline will gradually become stronger. It just needs a certain amount of time. Fang Yu thought to himself, in short, I have one more trump card now. Even if it was difficult to activate, it was still possible to activate it for a moment. He believed that this moment of activation was enough to solve all the problems below the martial spirit level. Chapter 250. Everyone, I'm your new emperor, Fang Yu. You can call me His Highness Fang Yu. Fang Yu said to the many fire elves in a clear voice. Now, his second mission was to gain the recognition of 1,000 fire elves. The previous 100 had been cleared, and he needed to accumulate them again. If he completed it, his bloodline would increase by 1 level. The bloodline grades of the elves were a little special. The fire elf bloodline was the most ordinary. The next level was the elven warrior. After the elven warrior, it was the elven captain. Above the elven captain, it was the elven general, elven grand general, elven marshal, elven grand marshal, and then the elven king. As for the elven king's personal guards, the elven king's personal guard captain, and so on, it was a kind of bonus from faith. For example, Fang Yu appointed Klein as a personal guard. Although Klein was still an elven general, he could unleash the strength of an elven grand general and directly beat Alice and the rest, even if his talent and potential were not as good as Alice and the rest. If he was a personal guard captain, then Klein's combat strength would be equivalent to an elven grand general. In terms of level, other than the elven king, the remaining strongest were the elven generals. This group of fire elves was really not enough. Therefore, Fang Yu had to increase their overall strength. Fortunately, there were not many fire elves. As long as he put in some effort, he could still prepare their resources properly. The next step is to let more than 70% of the fire elves become elven warriors. Fang Yu secretly decided on the first step. Rice had to be eaten mouthful by mouthful. He still understood this principle. After Fang Yu's long speech, he gained the recognition of another 100 fire elves. Fang Yu realized that something like recognition was multifaceted. It couldn't be lumped together. For example, they had previously acknowledged Fang Yu because Fang Yu had given them fire attribute spirit stones, which made them feel like they had come back from the dead. It was like a hungry person who had encountered rice and pancake. It would be a lie to say that they were not grateful. Even if they did not know who Fang Yu was, it did not prevent them from being grateful to Fang Yu. This was the first time they were grateful to Fang Yu. Now, the second time they were grateful was because Fang Yu's eloquent speech had moved them. It made them recognize this new emperor, and even gave birth to the idea that as long as they followed Fang Yu's footsteps closely, they would be able to return to the elemental continent one day. In short, gratitude and recognition came in many forms. If it weren't for the limited time, Fang Yu would really consider staying here to gain recognition. I have to leave for the time being. After all, you have to live and need resources. Fang Yu said to Klein, I'll leave this place to you when I'm not around. Yes, Your Highness Fang Yu. Klein patted his chest in assurance. Fang Yu nodded and left. He was really thinking about what to do next. Fire sprites were creatures that could survive as long as they had fire attribute energy. However, this was still not enough. This was still too slow. Therefore, Fang Yu wanted to find some fire attribute treasures that were cheaper and easier to find and give them as rations. This way, their leveling speed would also be faster. As for the reward for this mission, Fang Yu did not intend to simply raise them to Elven Warrior. He wanted to rely on the power of the imprint to raise them to Elven Warrior, then use the reward to directly jump to Elven Captain. This way, their leveling speed would be faster. When Fang Yu woke up, it was already late at night. It was late at night and the surroundings were quiet. Lu Shenzhan and the rest were also resting. However, as warriors, most people would not directly rest. Instead, they would meditate and enter a meditative state to replace rest. Although they could not have a good dream, they did not neglect their cultivation. Over time, the results were still very impressive. Fang Yu was about to enter the Elven King's ring. If he entered a meditative state, he might give himself away. Therefore, he chose to sleep directly. Even Mo Ling could not do anything wrong. They couldn't possibly disturb Fang Yu while he was sleeping, right? Just as Fang Yu was about to enter a meditative state to cultivate, he suddenly realized that something was wrong. Dragon Soul! Fang Yu shouted. It's here, it's here. Yes, it's the smell of the page of the soul book, there's no mistake. The Dragon Soul said lazily, looks like someone who has obtained the page of the soul book is preparing to ambush you. Ha! Fang Yu chuckled, his face cold. If the page of the soul book was used well, it could really kill without spilling blood. However, this method was extremely vicious. The soul was a very important thing. If it was touched casually, it would be damaged at best, and the soul would be destroyed at worst. The reason why the bloodthirsty demon wolf was killed was because its soul was destroyed, and its soul was destroyed. In the Azure Dragon Mirror, there were inspectors watching. Even if someone attacked, they would not dare to kill the target. Instead, they would choose to heavily injure the target. As long as the target did not die, the Azure Dragon Academy would not pursue the matter, and there would be room for negotiation. However, since the other party had come, he wouldn't just come and go as he pleased. In other words, to take the risk of exposing the page of the soul book, they would definitely obtain the corresponding benefit. Fang Yu and the rest's points and their treasures were worth the price and risk. However, in this way, Fang Yu and the rest had a high possibility of their souls being damaged. After the soul was damaged, the specific aspects that would be affected depended on whether it was the heaven soul or earth soul that was injured, or even the human soul. In short, the soul was a very important thing and could not be touched carelessly. Now that the other party had made a move, it seemed that they could not be kind. Fang Yu, what should we do? The dragon soul asked. However, when it asked, It was obviously a little excited and expectant, because it knew what choice Fang Yu would make. "What do you think?" Fang Yu sneered and asked. At a time like this, what else could Fang Yu say or do? Of course, it was to kill him. Even if he did not kill him, he would give him a taste of his own medicine. Otherwise, he would be letting himself down. Fang Yu. Mo Ling was a little surprised to be woken up by Fang Yu. Why did this person wake her up directly? That was too rough. Did he not know how to treat a girl gently? Although she also liked Fang Yu's simple and rough way. Someone is using some kind of soul force to surround us. It seems that they are preparing to catch us all in one fell swoop. Do you have a way to detect the other party's presence? Fang Yu went straight to the point. I'll try. Mo Ling, who was clear about the severity of the matter, immediately entered the state of a charlatan and tried to detect the other party's location. However, the other party came prepared and there was no result. After all, if the other party could be detected easily, Mo Ling and the rest would not be surrounded by this kind of soul force unknowingly. The pages of the soul book attract each other. Perhaps we can make use of the connection between them? The dragon soul suddenly had an idea and said. Chapter 251. Oh, that's a good idea. Fang Yu's eyes lit up. Actually, they had already discussed this matter before. However, the page of the soul book was not a cabbage. It was not something that could be easily seen or attracted. However, after hearing the dragon soul's words, Fang Yu felt that this matter was feasible and had great potential. Then I'll give it a try. After saying that, Fang Yu tried to summon his page of the soul book. This thing was branded in his soul and others would not be able to detect it. When the page of the soul book floated up, Fang Yu realized that it had indeed become much more solid. It seems that the souls of powerful creatures can indeed heal the injuries of the page of the soul book, Fang Yu thought. However, this kind of power was at least at the level of a martial grandmaster. It would be best if it was a martial spirit to have some effect. Otherwise, it would be negligible and there would be no value in injecting it. Buzz, after summoning the page of the soul book, Fang Yu's expression turned grave. This was because, under the influence of his page of the soul book, Fang Yu realized that something was wrong. There's a similar kind of energy spreading and surrounding us. Fang Yu suddenly felt a strong sense of danger. If he had not detected it in advance, the other party would have succeeded. Even if it did not harm his life, there was a chance that he would become an idiot if he was not careful. Fang Yu did not dare to take such a risk. Fang Yu, I can't find it. Mo Ling said dejectedly. I didn't hold back, but the other party did not come with good intentions. Furthermore, they came prepared and did not hesitate to use some treasures to interfere with heaven's secrets. Unless it's an existence at the level of my master, it will be difficult to find the truth. Alright, you keep watch for now. Be careful not to let the other party succeed. I'll be back soon. Fang Yu patted Mo Ling's shoulder and said. If they were unaware, even Mo Ling would have a chance of being schemed against. However, as long as Mo Ling knew that someone was making a move in the dark, and took precautions, it would be practically impossible for the other party to succeed. That was because the forces behind them had given them a lot of support, and all kinds of treasures were good. It might be difficult to counterattack, but it was easy to guard against them. You found the location of the other party? Mo Ling was somewhat eager to give it a try. Yeah, something like that. Fang Yu nodded. Although he wasn't 100% sure, Fang Yu had roughly determined a certain range. The other party was definitely hiding within it. Take me there, take me there. Mo Ling was extremely excited. This is no laughing matter, Fang Yu said snappily. Wasn't that the case? Even if Fang Yu personally made a move, he didn't dare to say that he had absolute confidence in defeating the other party. However, Fang Yu would do his best. If the other party really didn't want to be treated well, he would just trade one for one. He, Fong Yu, wasn't afraid of anyone. I know, but I just want to go, Mo Ling pleaded coquettishly. Just when Fong Yu was frowning, a fair hand pulled Mo Ling away. You will stay here with me, Feng Yaoguang said solemnly. After the incident with the demons, although she had gradually walked out of the shadow, it was impossible to say that there weren't any repercussions. For example, being easily awakened when she was resting was one of the repercussions. Originally, she had thought that she was being too sensitive to this inexplicable power. Now that Fong Yu said it, she knew that someone was waiting for an opportunity to make a move. Then, there was nothing much to say. Just do what you need to do. Mo Ling was still causing trouble here. This was simply unbearable. Feng Yaoguang, Mo Ling was angry and frustrated. She wanted to scold someone, but seeing Feng Yaoguang's determined look, she gave in. If she insisted, Lu Shuzhan and the rest would probably wake up again. At that time, Mo Ling wouldn't be able to get anything good out of it. She would even be scolded. That would be too miserable. Thus, what else could she do? She could only accept it and obediently shut up. Go ahead. Mo Ling and I will stay here, Feng Yaoguang said gently. Regarding this, Fong Yu smiled helplessly and nodded. Feng Yaoguang wasn't such an obedient girl. It could be seen that the demons had left a huge shadow in her heart. Then, what made Fong Yu feel the most helpless was that Feng Yaoguang seemed to have blurred a concept because of this. She gradually became dependent on him. What the hell was this? Kid, a wise man in the dragon race, mentioned that he saw some people researching this situation in some remote areas among some barbarians. The dragon's soul said mysteriously. What research? Fong Yu asked. They called this the suspension bridge effect. In short, Feng Yaoguang is really TSK. You have to take responsibility. Otherwise, I will beat your chest with my little fist. The dragon's soul imitated Mo Ling and acted coquettishly. However, it did things that Feng Yaoguang would do. Alright, it's time to get down to business. Fong Yu reminded the dragon's soul. Okay. The dragon's soul replied repeatedly. Outside the Gen Earth giant ape's nest, a petite figure was submerged in the darkness. Fong Yu. Damn it. This is the goal of our soul worship sect. The petite woman muttered to herself while gnashing her teeth. That's right, the Gen Earth giant ape was the prey that she had set her eyes on. It was very suitable for her to complete the Saintess mission. The so-called Saintess mission was a mission that needed to be completed step by step during the process of becoming the Saintess. Her current mission was to refine a puppet with the soul of a demonic beast. When she returned to the soul worship sect, she would have to compete with the other candidates for the position of Saintess. If the puppet she refined had outstanding strength, she would be able to gain a lot of points and help her become the Saintess. However, before she could take action, the Gen Earth giant ape of Blue Water City ran away. Just as she was about to make a move, it ran away. She was dumbfounded. In the end, the Gen Earth giant ape even used the Earth Escape technique. The Earth Escape technique was a terrifying talent. She only had 2 legs and didn't dare to make too much noise in case she was discovered by other powerful demonic beasts. It should be known that some powerful demonic beasts didn't need to carry out missions. They were level 8 or even level 9 demonic beasts. If she encountered them without any preparation, she couldn't think of any other outcome other than death. When she finally arrived, the Gen Earth giant ape was already dead. The culprit was Fong Yu and his group. It wasn't hard to see that Fong Yu's points had skyrocketed. It was all Fong Yu's doing. For this, she wanted revenge. Cutting off someone's path to wealth is like killing their parents. Fong Yu, you harmed me like this. I won't rest until you die. The petite woman hated Fong Yu to the core. She couldn't wait to eat his flesh and drink his blood. Do you hate me that much? I have no enmity with you. We don't even know each other, right? Fang Yu's strange and emotional voice suddenly sounded behind the petite woman. Chapter 252. You. The petite girl was startled and quickly looked back. She saw Fang Yu with his arms crossed in front of his chest, looking at her with some confusion. You, when did you come? The petite girl was shocked. She didn't notice it at all. What was going on? I just came. When I came, I saw you scolding me. Did I offend you in any way? Fang Yu asked curiously. Originally, he thought that the person who targeted them was someone who wanted to take the opportunity to soar into the sky, but in the end, he found out that was not the case. It was a woman who he had never met and had no idea where she came from. Fang Yu really didn't know what he had done to deserve such deep hatred from her. He was really wronged. You. The petite girl hadn't recovered from the shock yet. Fang Yu was less than 3 feet away from her just now, right? In other words, if Fang Yu wanted to kill her, she would be dead already. How could she not be afraid? What about me? Instead, it's you who are sneaking around. Are you planning to sneak attack us? Fang Yu asked. Humph. Why should I tell you? The petite girl snorted coldly, not buying Fang Yu's account at all. You don't want to tell me, right? Then when I catch you, you won't be so easy to talk to. Fang Yu warned the other party. He was serious. After all, the other party used something like the soul book page to try to sneak attack them. Once she succeeded, it wasn't something that could be brushed off with an apology. Therefore, once the other party didn't cooperate, Fang Yu wouldn't be polite either. You have to have the ability to do that. After the petite girl finished speaking, she directly whistled. Then, she disappeared like a ghost. This. Fang Yu frowned. Fang Yu, she hasn't disappeared, she's still in the same place. The dragon's soul hurriedly reminded. Fang Yu's pupils dilated, took a deep breath, and punched out. Rumble! Fang Yu punched out, and the trees and grass in front were destroyed by the strong wind. The petite woman slowly landed on the side, and looked at Fang Yu with some fear. She didn't disappear just now. She just used some kind of movement technique to merge with the darkness. In this way, it was no different from her disappearing. Most enemies would panic when they encountered such a situation for the first time. Then, she took the opportunity to kill him. There were very few people who could survive this move. However, Fang Yu was able to see through her concealment at a glance. He even charged over without hesitation. This man was really ruthless. Don't you have tender feelings for the fairer sex? The petite girl asked. Fang Yu had a strange look on his face. I can't even see what you look like, and you're telling me that you have tender feelings for the fairer sex? Do you really want to see me like this? The petite girl blinked her large eyes and said. Unfortunately, she was wearing a veil and the sky was dark. Fang Yu could only sigh. Was this person crazy? Let's get back to the topic. You said that I offended you. What's going on? Fang Yu asked. He had to be sure that she was coming for him. You stole my great ape of Gen Earth. The petite girl didn't mince her words. That's right. If there was anything that couldn't be resolved between her and Fang Yu, the great ape of Gen Earth was the biggest reason. Great ape of Gen Earth? Fang Yu was even more confused after hearing what she said. Wasn't the great ape of Gen Earth wild? Could it be that she raised it? If not, why did she say that he stole her great ape of Gen Earth? Wait! Fang Yu stopped her. What do you mean by I stole your great ape of Gen Earth? Since you're destined to become a fool, I don't mind telling you. I'm a candidate for the Saintess of the Spirit Worship sect. The great ape of Gen Earth was the main target of my Saintess mission. In the end, you killed it. The petite girl became more agitated as she spoke. You Piao will not forgive you. This, Fang Yu was stunned by the other party's words. That's it? That's it. F***ck, I thought I did something wrong. So it's your fault. Fang Yu was furious. You want to harm all of us because of such a small matter? So what? Who told you to steal my prey? It's very important to my saintess mission. Without it, I don't have much confidence in becoming the saintess of the spirit worship sect. Yu Piapiao felt wronged as well. Normally, no one would challenge a level 7 beast on the second day of the semifinals, right? After all, most of them weren't even martial spirits. They weren't even peak martial grandmasters. How could they have the courage to challenge a level 7 beast? Fang Yu, on the other hand, was different. After he killed the bloodthirsty demon wolf, he killed the great ape of Gen Earth. He killed 2 martial spirit level beasts in one day. Was this something a human could do? The point was that Fang Yu had killed one of the beasts that she had her eyes on. This grudge was absolutely irreconcilable. You're crazy, Fang Yu wanted to curse. Did he have to take the blame for this? No way. Fang Yu, I won't forgive you. After saying that, Yu Piapiao's forehead lit up. This is… Fang Yu immediately recognized what it was and was extremely excited. This was the page of the soul book. Sure enough, someone here had another page of the soul book. Seeing Fang Yu's reaction, Yu Piapiao was also extremely satisfied. She thought that Fang Yu was stunned and frightened. In her opinion, this was not strange, because the page of the soul book had a strange energy that could inexplicably intimidate the soul of the other party. Although she didn't know how Fang Yu found her and tracked her here without anyone noticing, she dared to say that once the page of the soul book appeared, Fang Yu could only bow his head and kowtow. She had done this kind of thing more than once, and the effect each time was pretty good. If you're willing to become my slave and serve me for 100 years, I can spare your death sentence. Otherwise, even if you die, I'll peel your soul out alive and make you suffer a fate worse than death. Yu Piapiao said solemnly. Oh. Fang Yu also woke up from his daze and said, You are serious? Of course I'm serious. Otherwise, what do you think? Yu Piapiao raised her chin and said, I say, Fang Yu, do you have some special physique? Why do these girls like to capture you as their slave? The dragon soul asked mockingly. Scram. Fang Yu's face darkened. That's right, why did it seem like many people wanted him to be their slave? Could it be that he really had some special aura that he did not notice? No. There's definitely no such thing. I can't be led astray by the dragon soul. Fang Yu glared fiercely at the dragon soul, indicating that it should not continue talking nonsense. The dragon soul curled its lips, expressing helplessness. How is it? Have you thought it through? It's still not too late to admit defeat now. Otherwise, I'll make a move. You won't have a chance. Yu Piapiao gave Fang Yu one last chance. Chapter 253. Yes, I have. Fang Yu replied. Good. Now, kneel down and acknowledge me as your master. Yu Piapiao took a deep breath and said, If you do that, I will spare your life. Not killing Fang Yu was not part of her plan. However, for the sake of the soul book, she had to do this. What are you thinking? Who said I want to acknowledge you as my master? Yu Piapiao, if you hand over the soul book's page now and get lost, I can still let you go. After all, you came all the way here to deliver it. It's also a long journey. I will still be kind to you. Fang Yu said seriously. You know about the soul book's page? Yu Piapiao's face turned pale. Why wouldn't I know about it? I relied on this thing to sense your existence. Fang Yu sneered and released the aura of the soul book's page. You also have the soul book's page. Yu Piapiao stared at Fang Yu's soul book's page. She wanted it. She wanted Fang Yu's soul book's page. If I have this thing, the great ape of Gen Earth is not important anymore. Yu Piapiao's breathing became heavy. If the great ape of Gen Earth's soul was her bonus, Then the soul book's page was her trump card to seize the position of saintess. If she had a trump card, why would she need bonus points? She had to get the soul book's page. Fang Yu, this woman looks at you strangely, the dragon's soul said with a smile. It seems like she wants something. For example, your love and care? Get lost. Fang Yu reminded the dragon's soul solemnly, we are about to fight. Don't mess around. Hee hee, you're just trying to scare me. If she were to fight you with real swords and spears, it would be reasonable for her to be worried about you since she doesn't know your background. However, no matter how I look at it, she's going to have a soul duel with you. With the soul book's page as her weapon, we will fight. The dragon's soul said slowly, what else is there to say? She's dead, okay? That's right. If Yu Piapiao and Fang Yu fought, the outcome might not necessarily be Fang Yu who had the last laugh. However, Yu Piapiao just so happened to want to compete with Fang Yu on the pages of the Book of Souls. The result was self-evident. One had to know that Fang Yu's soul book page had been restored to 23%. Before this, he was as slow as a snail. It was mainly because he had absorbed a wisp of the evil spirit's soul. Otherwise, it would have been impossible for him to recover so quickly. Therefore, the dragon's soul didn't believe that others would have such an opportunity. Therefore, Yu Piapiao was definitely going to lose. It all depended on how Fang Yu was going to deal with her. Where did you get that page from? Fang Yu asked. Not waiting for Yu Piapiao to sneer and refuse, Fang Yu continued, I obtained it from an enemy who wanted to kill me. He didn't know much about the pages of the soul book and only knew how to make use of them. Although he had some advantages, once I made up my mind to kill him, he would still die. This Yu Piapiao's eyelids twitched. What was this person trying to do? When did they become so friendly? I wonder where your page of the soul book came from? Fang Yu asked. And my page of the soul book was found in an incomplete book. Yu Piapiao felt goosebumps from Fang Yu's gaze and couldn't help but talk about the origin of her page of the soul book. By the time she realized that something was wrong, she had already explained the ins and outs of the matter. What am I doing? Yu Piapiao was extremely vexed. On what basis should she answer Fang Yu's question? On what basis? So that's how it is. Although Yu Piapiao didn't finish speaking, Fang Yu already had a general idea of what was going on. Speaking of which, Yu Piapiao couldn't be said to be the child of destiny. She was just a little lucky. If she was a step slower, then this opportunity wouldn't be hers. The reason why she wasn't the child of destiny was mainly because Yu Piapiao hadn't been able to fully utilize the function of the page of the soul book. Although Yu Piapiao had accidentally discovered some uses of the page of the soul book, in Fang Yu's opinion, it was far from enough. Are you done talking? Are you going to hand over the page of the soul book? Yu Piapiao was a little exasperated. After all, she had been fooled for no reason. It would be strange if she was in a good mood. It's better for you to hand it over, Fang Yu said seriously. In any case, you've revealed so many secrets to me. If I were to beat you up, that wouldn't be good. You impudent. After speaking, Yu Piapiao immediately summoned the page of the soul book and was about to use the power of the page of the soul book to suppress Fang Yu. No one knows the page of the soul book better than me. Yu Piapiao was full of confidence. She was convinced of her talent in the page of the soul book. Buzz, when Yu Piapiao's page of the soul book transmitted a huge amount of energy, the corner of Fang Yu's mouth twitched. Just this? Compared to his page of the soul book, Yu Piapiao's page of the soul book was simply no different from a hooligan. Okay, the game is over. After speaking, Fang Yu's page of the soul book rapidly enlarged, and then like a wall, it directly blocked Yu Piapiao's soul energy. Impossible! Before Yu Piapiao had time to be shocked, she was stunned by the soul energy that bounced back. Hee hee, I told you, she's not your opponent at all. If it were up to me, she'd be your slave, a slave for 100 years. The dragon's soul chuckled with an evil face. Speaking of which, I've never been liked by a little female dragon. I think this little slave of yours is not bad. Are you stupid? Fang Yu said snappily. Wasn't that right? If the dragon's soul had strange thoughts at other times, it would be fine. But now Yu Piao was obviously a guy with a great background. He couldn't let his guard down. The dragon's soul still wanted to take her for himself. Seriously. Lock her up for me. Fang Yu directly locked Yu Piao in the ring of the Elf King. This is... Klein was shocked. Klein was astonished. Why did His Highness return so quickly? This is a prisoner. She still has some use. Lock her up. It's fine as long as she doesn't die. I still have some use for her in the future. Fang Yu instructed. Yes, Your Highness. Many fire elves hurriedly promised. Fang Yu's consciousness returned from the ring of the Elf King. Since Yu Piao was locked in the ring of the Elf King, there were only two results. First, Yu Piao would eventually become a dead person. Only the dead would not reveal any secret. It was also because of this that Fang Yu could be at ease. Second, Yu Piao would become Fang Yu's person. From her body to her soul, she would submit to Fang Yu like the fire elves. Otherwise, how could he be at ease? However, these are all things in the future. The most important thing now is the page of the soul book. Fang Yu summoned the page of the soul book that he had peeled off before Yu Piao. His eyes lit up. He finally got the second page of the soul book. Chapter 254. The pages of the soul book can be fused together? Fang Yu pondered. This was the feeling he got from the 2 pages of the soul book. Then let's give it a try. Fang Yu summoned the 2 pages of the soul book and tried to let them fuse together. Buzz. Sure enough, the moment they got close, Fang Yu did not need to do anything and they fused together. The dragon's soul also opened its eyes wide. Fusing the pages of the soul book was a rare occurrence. In other words, after the pages of the soul book were destroyed, not many people would be able to collect them again. Even if they obtained them, they would worship them like family heirlooms, afraid that others would know about it. Fang Yu was lucky enough to obtain one from a weakling, and now Yu Piao, this newbie, gave him another one. This was really a great luck. 2 pages of the soul book fusing together was a rare scene. Now was the time to witness a miracle. Soon, the 2 pages of the soul tome completely fused together. Ding! The soul book page has been successfully fused. Progress 73%. Fang Yu was a bit dumbfounded. After the fusion, the progress was 73%? How was this calculated? How is the fusion of the soul book calculated? Fang Yu directly asked the super slaughter system. The pages of the soul book were mysterious and unfathomable in the myriad spirit continent. Even the dragon soul, an existence that had once become a saint, didn't know what it was. Therefore, Fang Yu wouldn't be able to find an answer even if he racked his brains. Therefore, it was better to ask the super slaughter system. Ding! Unlocking the information related to the soul book page, 1000. 0 slaughter points. 1000 0 slaughter points. Fang Yu sucked in a mouthful of cold air. According to the other party's statement, even if he sold himself, he might not get 1000. 0 slaughter points. Forget it, Fang Yu waved his hand and fiddled with the soul book page. In fact, the soul book page didn't change much from before. It just became more solid and thicker. 73%. What a powerful soul force. Feeling the soul energy contained in the pages of the soul book, Fang Yu was dumbfounded. He believed that not many martial grandmasters would be able to withstand this kind of energy and would be knocked unconscious. But if the pages of the Book of Souls are discovered, it'll be very troublesome. Fang Yu fell into deep thought. That's right. Even a martial sage would find it hard to resist a treasure like the soul book's page. If he were to expose it recklessly, he would be asking for trouble. Therefore, it was better to explore it step by step. Did the 2 pages of the soul tome really merge together? The dragon's soul asked in surprise. After all, this was the first time it had seen something like this. It was quite surprised. Yes. Feng Yu nodded. Will it be very powerful? Forget it, I'll try it again when I have the chance. Because they don't know you have it. The dragon's soul was eager to give it a try. But when it remembered that other than them, Feng Yaoguang and the rest didn't know about this secret, it gave up. The reason was simple. Although Feng Yu destroyed the soul of the bloodthirsty demon wolf in front of them, there were very few terrifying things in the world that could damage the soul. They might not think of the soul book's page. Moreover, it wasn't that the soul-type bloodline power didn't exist. It was just a matter of strength. Feng Yu was now a rising dark horse. It wasn't strange for him to have some unknown secret. So as long as he didn't take the initiative to expose it, it wouldn't be difficult to hide it. Let's go back, Feng Yu was about to go back when he realized something was coming out of his limbs. It was a very strange black gas. It didn't have any killing power, but Feng Yu couldn't destroy it. He could only watch it run away. What is this? Feng Yu asked. It's probably some kind of curse? The dragon's soul glanced and said. Curse? Feng Yu asked. There are many strange abilities in the myriad spirit continent. Curses are one of the more famous ones, the dragon's soul explained. Then what was it that I was hit by? Feng Yu asked again. It's probably some kind of mark? Didn't she say she came from the spirit-worshipping sect? The dragon's soul replied. But I locked her in my treasure. How could she still activate the curse? Feng Yu was puzzled. This was because things like curses were rare in the profound sky world. Although Feng Yu was famous in the profound sky world, he wasn't omniscient. Just like a martial emperor. A martial emperor was very powerful, but there were also things that a martial emperor didn't understand. So Feng Yu didn't feel that it was strange for him to ask. The dragon's soul naturally didn't know that Feng Yu had so many twists and turns. It just felt that Feng Yu asking it questions made it feel very satisfied. Who asked Feng Yu to be so disrespectful to it? It ordered him to come and go as it wished. Now that he was staring at it with thirst for knowledge, it really made it feel very satisfied. We'll have to talk about the various principles of curses. As for curses, if it's used to kill, it's actually very difficult. This is because if it's discovered in an instant, people will definitely be on guard against it. Then, it won't be able to hurt people. Therefore, those hidden and strong curses are the most difficult. But these things are very rare. Curses are used to plot against people. Instead of spending time to study these things, it's better to just focus on improving one's strength. That's also the case. From what I know, there are very few curses that don't cause much damage, but are very persistent and have obvious marks that can't be erased. The dragon's soul spoke frankly. In that case, my mark is mainly used to mark me? Feng Yu asked. No. The dragon's soul said seriously. In my opinion, it's not that simple. It seems to be corroding your soul. What? Feng Yu was shocked. Corroding one's soul was no joke. This was a soul attack. But why don't I feel anything? Feng Yu asked doubtfully. You'll have to ask your soul book page. It's closely connected to your soul. I can't imagine what kind of curse can bypass the obstruction of the soul book page. The dragon's soul sighed. To be honest, you have the protection of the soul book page. Even if a martial saint attacks your soul, unless it's a martial saint who specializes in cultivating the soul, it's very difficult to kill you in an instant. Not to mention that you now have 2 pages of the soul book page, and they've even fused together. I see. Feng Yu was enlightened. At the same time, in a certain place in the Azure Dragon Mirror, a few men and women who had gathered together suddenly woke up. Is Yu Piapiao's soul-devouring curse activated? She's in danger of life and death? Everyone was stunned. But that's not possible. In the Azure Dragon Mirror, even if it's a matter of life and death, once you give up, you can still save your life. Chapter 255. After all, in the Azure Dragon Mirror, there was no existence above the Azure Dragon Mirror. At least, that was what they thought. Now that Yu Piapiao had encountered a matter of life and death. How was that possible? However, the soul-devouring curse wouldn't be activated for no reason. There must be a reason. Where was Yu Piapiao last seen? A man asked. Near Blue Water City. Someone answered. Blue Water City, huh? The black-robed man muttered to himself. He was the senior brother of these people. This time, in addition to Yu Piapiao, there were several Saintess candidates accompanying her. His mission was to ensure that these Saintess candidates wouldn't be affected. It would be best if they could enter the Azure Dragon Academy. Even if they didn't, it would be a good experience, because the selection of the 4 major academies could be said to be a gathering of the world's most outstanding geniuses. If they could make a trip, it would definitely be a worthwhile trip. In the end, Yu Piapiao requested to act alone and slipped away the next day. Now that something had happened, how could he not be anxious? One had to know that the soul worship sect was a typical example of valuing women over men. There was no other reason. Women were feminine and were naturally suited to walk this path. Men were more of a support role. It could be said to be a matriarchal society. However, these men had been nurtured by the soul worship sect since young and didn't feel any problem with this difference. Now that one of the Saintess candidates, Yu Piapiao, had really met with an accident, it would be a lie if he said that he wasn't anxious. I say, Senior Brother Lin, this time, Master and the rest had instructed us to follow your lead. Now that Yu Piapiao has run away, even if her life is in danger, she can't blame you. One of the Saintess candidates said with a smile. Isn't that so? I support not caring about Yu Piapiao. Moreover, this woman usually has a lot of wicked thoughts. Who can say for sure if something has really happened to her? I remember that once she accidentally sent out a distress signal. Our people anxiously looked for her, but in the end she snatched the treasure first. Another Saintess candidate chimed in. They and Yu Piapiao were absolute competitors. Unfortunately, Yu Piapiao was quite talented in this aspect. In this way, she had become their biggest competitor. Now that this competitor had brought trouble upon herself and was in a quagmire, it was already good that they didn't add insult to injury. And just as they said, who knew if Yu Piapiao had misunderstood this time? If that was the case, wouldn't they have wasted their energy again? They would never do such a thing again. Alright then, let's take a look first. If something really happened to her, we'll go and save her, Senior Brother Lin said after pondering for a while. It wasn't that he didn't want to take responsibility, but his junior sister, Yu Piapiao, was indeed a little unreliable. This sort of thing had happened more than once in the past. Thus, he decided to wait and see the situation clearly before making any plans. There was no hurry. Ugh, Yu Piapiao gradually woke up. Where is this place? I remember being ambushed by Fong Yu and then fainted. Did he lock me up? Yu Piapiao was shocked. She wanted to summon her spirit weapon to protect herself, only to discover that her storage ring and the like had all disappeared. The soul-devouring curse has been triggered. I believe they will come to save me soon. Yu Piapiao thought confidently. In her opinion, the other candidates for the position of Saintess were simply her servants and should obey her. Moreover, Senior Brother Lin obviously had a good impression of her and wouldn't abandon her. When the time came, she would definitely take revenge on Fong Yu and snatch back the page of the soul book. Yu Piao's heart burned with passion at the thought of recovering the lost page of the soul book and even having another page. You should give up. No matter who it is, don't even think about saving His Highness Feng Yu's enemy from my hands. Suddenly, a cold male voice sounded, giving Yu Piao a fright. Who is it? Yu Piao hurriedly asked. Who I am is not important. What's important is that you are His Highness Feng Yu's enemy. As long as His Highness Feng Yu doesn't let you out, even if you become a pile of bones, you will still be locked inside. Klein said coldly. However, he obeyed Feng Yu's instructions and didn't meet Yu Piao. He knew that His Highness Feng Yu wanted to teach Yu Piao a small lesson. An unseen enemy was the most terrifying. This was an army that subdued the enemy without a fight. His Highness Feng Yu was really amazing. Yu Piao was so angry that she laughed. Good. When my soul-worshipping sect's army comes, I'll see if you and His Highness Feng Yu will be able to bear the consequences. General, let me tear her apart. How dare she be disrespectful to His Highness Feng Yu? Leonard was exasperated. He was definitely Feng Yu's loyal fan now. Now, someone was insulting their emperor, insulting his idol. How could he tolerate this? Yu Piao was shocked and a little scared. Because when Leonard was angry, there was a billowing heat. This kind of heat seemed to want to burn her to ashes, making her instinctively fearful. We'll follow His Highness Feng Yu's instructions. His Highness Feng Yu must have his reasons for wanting to lock her up first. We'll just do as he says. After saying that, Klein casually threw a few fire attribute spirit stones in. This is a spirit stone? Yu Piao was stunned when she saw what it was. What the hell was this? This is for you to eat, lest you starve to death. Leonard, let's go. After saying that, Klein and Leonard gradually walked away. Hey! Yu Piao panicked. Not to mention that the soul-worshipping sect's cultivation technique was quite incompatible with the fire attribute. She was only a martial grandmaster. She hadn't reached the stage of fasting and still needed to eat. Even if she could barely rely on the spirit stone's spirit energy to maintain her life, she couldn't avoid eating in the end. Now that the spirit stone's attribute was wrong, she had to be locked up and not be given food or water. What should she do? Also, where's the toilet? Even if a fairy doesn't need to use the toilet, you have to give me a toilet. Yu Piao hurriedly shouted, but unfortunately, Klein and Leonard were already far away. Feng Yu, you're back. What's going on? Seeing that Feng Yu had returned, Feng Yaoguang hurriedly asked. At this moment, Lu Shenzhan and the rest also woke up one after another. Perhaps they wouldn't be alarmed when Feng Yu left, but Feng Yu had been out for a while. They could still sense that one person was suddenly missing. Then why did Feng Yu leave? When they woke up and asked Feng Yaoguang and the rest, they knew the answer. Therefore, they were also waiting for Feng Yu to return and see what Feng Yu's answer was. It's the soul-worshipping sect. Feng Yu took a deep breath and answered seriously. Chapter 256. Soul-worshipping sect? Everyone was shocked. The soul-worshipping sect was not a small sect. It was a famous sect in a remote area. This sect was very strange. Not only did they value women over men, but men were also treated like cattle and horses in the soul-worshipping sect. Over time, this had become a tradition of the soul-worshipping sect. Their men did not have any intention to resist, so others did not know where to start. After all, they could not interfere in other people's family matters for no reason. However, because the soul-worshipping sect studied souls, they were like half a country of women. Many forces kept a respectful distance from them. Now that they were being targeted by the soul-worshipping sect, it would be a lie to say that they were not surprised. What's the situation? Tell me. Bai Wuxie asked seriously. The soul-worshipping sect was a force that their family had warned them not to get involved with. However, if they came looking for them, Bai Wuxia would not back down. The descendant of the white-robed general was not a coward. I'll have to start with the Gen Earth Giant Ape. Fang Yu had no choice but to repeat Yu Piapiao's words. However, he made some changes to the key points. He changed Yu Piapiao's idea to the soul-worshipping sect's idea. He pointed the finger at the soul-worshipping sect. Fang Yu did this because he had no other choice. Otherwise, if they encountered the soul-worshipping sect one day, it would be easy to find out that something was wrong with Yu Piapiao. Perhaps it was Fang Yu who killed her or something else happened. Fang Yu believed that Yu Piapiao would not spread the news that she had a page of the Book of Souls. However, he did not want to be investigated. He had too many secrets and could not afford to be investigated. Therefore, the best thing to do was to kill the soul-worshipping sect if they encountered them. No one would care about what the loser said. When the time came, they would be at the mercy of the loser. After that, Fang Yu would be a student of the Azure Dragon Institute. Why would he be afraid of the soul-worshipping sect? They want to harm our souls for the Gen Earth Giant Ape? The soul-worshipping sect is really a freak. Wang Zhong's expression was ugly. He knew the importance of souls. However, the soul-worshipping sect was too much to deal with so many of them just for the Gen Earth Giant Ape. Moreover, did they really think that they were pushovers who could be easily bullied? Now, Wang Zhong really wanted to measure the strength of the soul-worshipping sect himself. That's too much. Kegu narrowed his eyes and said. Kegel was not a Buddhist person, but he had his own goals and ambitions. Before achieving his goals and ambitions, Kegel didn't want to be too eye-catching. Although their team, especially their captain, Fang Yu, was already the center of attention. However, even a clay figurine had some temper. Wasn't the soul-worshipping sect looking down on them by treating them like this? He, Kager, was a member of the royal family of the barbarian race. He was not someone who could be easily bullied. The crowd was filled with righteous indignation. Lu Shuzhan took a deep look at Fang Yu. Based on her understanding of Fang Yu, this matter shouldn't be as simple as it seemed, but this wasn't important. The one who did this must be someone from the soul worship sect. There was no doubt about it. Moreover, it should have been very dangerous at that time. Otherwise, Fang Yu wouldn't have personally taken action. Lu Shuzhan had observed Fang Yu before. Apart from the fact that he wouldn't wake up early if there wasn't enough benefit, he would also send his subordinates to take action if there wasn't enough danger. Since he personally took action, it showed how serious the matter was. He probably got some benefits, but forget it. How much can a little benefit be? Lu Shuzhan thought to herself. When we meet the soul worship sect in the future, we'll kill them. Bai Wuxia made the final decision. Fang Yu nodded. We'll definitely teach them a lesson. That's right. Before their people escaped, I think I saw a bit of black gas. This is, after a pause, Fang Yu continued. They must have marked you. That's even better. They'll eventually come knocking on our door. This will save us a lot of effort. Bai Wuxia sneered. Now, there's an important question. He Ping suddenly spoke. What question? Fang Yu asked. Now that we've become famous, I'm sure there will be a lot of people eyeing us. Of course, with the strength of the 9 of us, just one team won't be able to deal with us. They'll only be sending us to our deaths. However, what if there are 3, 4, or 5 teams? 2 fists can't fight against 4 hands. If there are more than 10 people who can be considered as geniuses attacking together, even with our strength, we won't be able to handle them. Then, you're saying, Fang Yu asked. Although I don't mind swaggering, it's still a good idea to be careful, He Ping said. He Ping said, my suggestion is that we split up and regroup at the target location. You don't want to enter the city? Lu Shuzhan immediately guessed what He Ping was planning to do. The moment she said that, everyone jumped in fright. Killing the bloodthirsty fiend wolf and staying in the Gen Earth Giant Ape's nest was already very risky. Even if they still had a trump card, were they the only ones with a trump card? No. They did not forget that before the semi-finals officially started, some people had suddenly moved over. This included Mayan, who they had met before. Mayan's strength was above Kagur. It was still unknown who was stronger between him and Bai Wuxia. If these people formed a team, the ones who would be hunted down would undoubtedly be Fang Yu and the others. Therefore, splitting up and regrouping at the target location was a good idea. However, should we still focus on killing high-grade demonic beasts? Feng Yaoguang asked hesitantly. She clearly saw how powerful the bloodthirsty fiend wolf and the Gen Earth giant ape were. They had to attack together or use some powerful spiritual weapons to fight against them. If they were to fight one-on-one, they would probably be bitten to death or smacked to death. This was especially so for a demonic beast like the Gen Earth giant ape. Its intelligence was comparable to a human's. With so many trump cards, it was like an endless matryoshka doll. Fortunately, their strength and reputation were not based on bragging. In the end, they managed to kill the Gen Earth giant ape. However, if they did this again and again, there would be a time when they would fail. At that time, it would not be fun. It's possible, but we need to think about it in the long run. Fang Yu said. He was confident but not arrogant. He could still deal with 7th grade and 8th grade demonic beasts. What if the opponent looked like a 7th grade or 8th grade demonic beast, but was actually a 9th grade demonic beast? Once it exploded, it could definitely kill one or two of them in an instant. In the blink of an eye, he couldn't even use the token to teleport out. That was because the Azure Dragon Mirror was not paying attention to them. It still had to fight against the demons. Fang Yu did not want his companions to die here. It was reasonable to think about it in the long run. Chapter 257. At the same time, Mayan also met with some of her companions, who had also temporarily transferred to the Azure Dragon Academy to participate in the semi-finals. They all knew very well why they had come here. They also knew that they had suddenly transferred here because they did not have time to prepare many things. In this way, they needed to exchange information. After they had finished exchanging some basic information, one of them suddenly asked curiously, "Yes, Mayan, are you and Fang Yu very close?" Mayan was a little puzzled. What did this mean? Not very close. He's with my fiancée. Mayan replied. I see. Then I need to remind you that the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance has appeared. The news was spread during the day today, but it seems that they are specifically targeting those who stand out, the other party said mysteriously. Heaven-Cleaving Alliance? Mayan was stunned. What was with such a Chinibu name? I don't know the details, but the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance seems to be targeting the top 100 people on the list. They might be in the top 100 themselves, but they don't want to spend too much effort, so they came up with this method to target the people on the list. When the other party said this, there was a cold smile on his face. If they couldn't beat the other party, they would think of killing the other party. This idea was also impossible. However, they were not afraid. Not to mention that they had a very excellent intelligence network. Any wind or grass that was harmful to them could not escape their eyes and ears. Moreover, their strength was very, very strong to begin with. It was the very, very strong kind. It was so strong that it was enough to attack Fang Yu. However, the real purpose of their trip was not to rank, but to obtain the fortune of the saint level. Otherwise, it was hard to say if the first place on the list and the other rankings would be Fang Yu and the others. As for why he told Mayan this news, there was no special reason. He just thought it would be fun. Since Mayan's fiancée was with Fang Yu and the others, then things would undoubtedly become even more interesting. Watching the other party leave, Mayan's expression also became solemn. She knew that Fang Yu's strength was extraordinary, and so was Kager. However, if they were attacked by a group, it would obviously be very bad. All of a sudden, Kager, who was still discussing something with Fang Yu and the others, seemed to notice something. He took out an ancient wooden tablet and examined it with rapt attention. A short while later, Kager took a deep breath and said, "The situation isn't good." What happened? Fang Yu and the others were curious. Why did Kager say that the situation was bad when he saw the wooden sign? "This is a token between us and the Mayan family. Mayan just sent me a message saying that a heaven-cleaving alliance has appeared." As the name suggests, this is a small group that specializes in targeting various geniuses. Their target is the people on the list. Our group is too flamboyant, so we might be targeted. Kager finished what he wanted to say in one breath. Although we are not afraid of them, and the person who deliberately sent the message may not have good intentions, we are in a passive position in this situation. Isn't it better for us to take the long view? Oh! Fang Yu's expression changed slightly. According to their current momentum, it was only a matter of time before they were targeted. The hunter would shoot the bird that sticks out. This was the case. Originally, I wanted to persuade them not to split up, but now I guess this is the only path we can take. Lu Xinjian suddenly said. Why? Wang Zhong asked. Because we have to nip this trend in the bud. We have to let them know that we are the real God's favored ones, the real geniuses. That's why they are afraid of us. Otherwise, we will have a lot of trouble in the future. Lu Xinjian said decisively. That's true. Everyone agreed with Lu Xinjian's words. If we have to split up, how many groups should we split into? Fang Yu went straight to the point. In his view, Lu Xinjian was the one who would support him. He also agreed with this line of thought. Then, they would follow this line of thought. 3 groups, Lu Xinjian said. Me, my brother, and He Ping will be a group. Bai Wuxia, Wang Zhong, and Kager will be a group. You, Mo Ling, and Feng Yaoguang will be a group. This is the most balanced way, and our strength can reach the highest level. That's reasonable, Fang Yu nodded slightly. Then, let's move during the day. He wanted to find an opportunity to test how strong he was now. After all, he was very different from before after obtaining the Fire Elf bloodline. You agreed so easily. Did you gain something just now? Mo Ling asked in a low voice. Fang Yu smiled but did not say anything. He did gain something, but it was probably different from what Mo Ling had imagined. Fang Yu directly entered a meditative state. Everyone had no objections and continued to rest. The reason was that they were very confident in themselves after going through a series of battles. No matter how strong their opponents were, could they be stronger than the bloodthirsty demon wolves and the Gen Earth giant ape? Impossible. Moreover, they had also revealed some of their trump cards today. Their confidence had increased greatly, and of course, they would not panic. The next day, Fang Yu and the others set off at dawn. Just as they had agreed, they split up and acted separately. Oh? They split up. The cultivators who had been paying attention to the movements of Fang Yu and the others were surprised. There were many people with special abilities in the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance. One of them was the ability to share vision with demonic beasts. They caught a low-level demonic beast that was easy to tame as a spiritual pet and let it track down Fang Yu and the others. They could not lock onto the exact location of Fang Yu and the others, but they could deduce their approximate whereabouts. They did not expect to find them just as dawn broke. Fang Yu and the others had split up into 3 groups. Split up into 3 groups. We have enough people, so don't be afraid. Follow them. The people of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance were also decisive. Since they had chosen Fang Yu and the others as their targets, how could they back down now that things had come to this? Even if they did not know why Fang Yu and the others had suddenly split up into 3 groups, they could only brace themselves and go. Oh? They're fast. About an hour later, Feng Yu sensed that someone was following them and could not help but smile. You're the first, I'm the second in the younger generation of the Tianji Hall, and she's the young lady of the treasure house. We're all people with status. Isn't it natural for them to choose us? Mo Ling chuckled and said, but I sweated a lot yesterday, so I'm not in a good state now. If there are enemies, can we? Chapter 258. Seeing this, Feng Yu rolled his eyes. This woman was just trying to slack off. Everything she said was just an excuse. I'm not afraid to tell you. The things that the younger generation of Tianji Hall impart are different from what you think. Not everyone is good at fighting. For example, my senior sister and I. Do you know why I can't beat her? Seeing Feng Yu's reaction, Mo Ling hurriedly said. Why? Feng Yu asked. Because it's impossible to say that her deduction method is much better than mine. I have my own advantages. In this aspect, it's possible to say that we're tied or that I have greater potential. However, I lost in one aspect. Mo Ling sighed. What aspect? Feng Yaoguang was also curious. Because after Mo Ling appeared, her words were mixed with one meaning, to defeat her senior sister. For this, she was willing to pay a huge price. Because her senior sister had almost become her inner demon. If she didn't solve this inner demon, it would be impossible for Mo Ling to achieve great things in her life. Apart from that, Mo Ling's senior sister was described by Mo Ling as monstrous, powerful, and abnormal. She was already a martial spirit. She was not a beginner martial spirit, but was about to become a mid-level martial spirit. If such a person participated in the selection of the 4 academies, she would probably be invited directly. The selection of the 4 academies was not without a green channel. In terms of alchemy, weapon forging, or formations, she had to reach the level of a master. If she advanced to martial spirit in advance, she could go through special channels. For this type of person, even if it wasn't 100%, it was almost certain. Therefore, Feng Yaoguang more or less understood why Mo Ling was so obsessed with her senior sister. If such a monstrous person cultivated with her in the same sect, she would probably be defeated no matter how outstanding she was. This would really make one collapse. Other than cultivating the same way as me, she also has the potential to wield the path sword. Mo Ling took a deep breath and said. When she said this, Mo Ling's tone and expression were very heavy. How could it not be heavy? This was the path sword. As one of the 10 famed swords, it was also one of the 3 great treasures of the Tianji Hall. Although the path sword didn't have a master every generation, every master of the path sword would become the next Sky Secret Hall master. Mo Ling was an orphan, and Tianji Hall was her home. This was also the reason why Mo Ling yearned to succeed her master and become the master of the Heavenly Secret Hall. Helpless, the Tao sword that even his master couldn't deal with chose his senior sister of his own accord. Moreover, Tao sword's attitude was different from before. It was no different from a bootlicker to senior sister. This was a Tao sword. The Tao sword, one of the 10 famous swords in the world. How could this be? How could this be? At the thought of this, Mo Ling almost lost control and went berserk. Tao sword, what is it? Feng Yu asked the dragon soul. This was because Feng Yaoguang's expression was extremely shocked. If such a genius like Feng Yu didn't know or recognize him, wouldn't that make him seem very weak? The Tao sword, one of the 10 famed swords in the world, the supreme treasure of the Tianji Palace. It was said that there were 3 great treasures in the Tianji Hall. The Tao sword that can cut through everything, the black tortoise armor that can be used for divination or defense, and the catoptric deflection. The Tao sword is one of them. The dragon soul seized the opportunity to show off and continued. Our dragon tribe also has a dragon god sword. The dragon god sword contains the will of the dragon god. Even the dragon emperor has to respect it. It seems very powerful. When can you lend it to me to play with? Fang Yu smiled and said, What nonsense are you thinking? Can I say that I have never seen it before? The dragon's soul said unhappily. You have never seen it before? That's impossible. Fang Yu had some guesses about the origin of the dragon soul. However, he couldn't say for sure. This was because the dragon soul had been suppressed by the martial sage back then, but no one from the dragon tribe had come to its rescue. This already explained many things. However, there were some things that the dragon soul wouldn't take the initiative to say. Fang Yu also wouldn't make too many guesses. After all, there was still a basic level of trust. How is it impossible? This thing is in the ancestral land. Do you know what the ancestral land is? Historically, only the peak holy dragons could enter. Only the Dragon Emperor has the qualifications to officially enter. However, how many Dragon Emperors are there? It's already good enough to have one Dragon Emperor in each generation. Sometimes, there isn't even one Dragon Emperor. The dragon's soul sighed. If I hadn't fallen to this state, I would have had a chance to enter the ancestral land. Fang Yu rolled his eyes at it. Although the dragon's soul wasn't wrong. The dragon soul's talent was terrifying. If it continued to cultivate normally, it might really become a peak holy dragon. However, there weren't so many ifs in the world. You said the dragon teeth blade and the Dao sword. Before Fang Yu could finish, the dragon soul retorted. The Dao sword is powerful. At the very least, the current dragon teeth blade isn't even half of the Dao sword. Although it was forged from the Dragon Emperor's teeth, it doesn't have much charm. Unless you can let it shine with the glory of the Dragon Emperor, it can't be compared to the Dao sword. I'm very confident and proud of our dragon race. However, the Dao sword is something that even our ancestor, the dragon god, praised. It said that the Dao sword came from a god. It's not inferior to the dragon god sword at all. If we were to directly compare, it said that to a certain extent, the dragon god sword might be ranked lower. So, do you understand? The Dao sword is ranked second, and the dragon god sword is ranked third. The dragon's soul said helplessly. It really wanted to say that the dragon god sword was the strongest, the dragon god sword was the best, and the dragon god sword was invincible. However, the Dao sword and a sword that had long been lost were indeed superior to the dragon god sword. This was really suffocating. That's also the case. My senior sister's combat power is very strong. She has a replica of the Dao sword. I'm not her match at all. She knows everything that I know. Even if I have a slight chance of winning against her, once the Dao sword appears, even if it's a replica, I have to admit defeat. Mo Ling was indignant. Alright, I'll take action later. You guys hold the fort for me. Fang Yu said, after all, 2 fists can't fight 4 hands. There are at least 10 of them. Even if I can fight against 10 of them, it's still difficult for me to win against 10 of them. You don't have to worry about this. Actually, I've said so much because I want to show that I can occasionally be the main force. However, if you want me to be the main force, then I can't. Mo Ling immediately smiled through her tears, as if the person who was about to cry wasn't her. I still have some treasures. I guarantee that they won't ambush you or disturb you. Feng Yaoguang also guaranteed. She couldn't lose to Mo Ling. Even if she lost, she couldn't lose by too much. Chapter 259. Hee hee, Fang Yu, aren't you guys going to run? What a pity. These 2 ladies are so pretty. Don't tell me Fang Yu is going to take the lead. The group of people who had chased after them were shocked by Fang Yu's group, who were waiting for them. It was as if their positions had been switched. They were not the ones chasing after Fang Yu's group. They were the ones who had walked into the lion's den. It was a very strange feeling. Therefore, they did not want to be outdone. They started to trash talk, trying to break the confidence of Fang Yu's group. After all, this was the Azure Dragon Mirror. With the protection of the Azure Dragon Mirror, it was impossible for them to kill anyone. As for doing something like that, it was also impossible. What if they ended up becoming students of the Azure Dragon Academy? Wouldn't that be very embarrassing? Moreover, this kind of thing was strictly forbidden in the selection of the 4 academies. Once it was discovered, the inspectors would come. The inspectors were all at least martial kings. Most of them were former students of the Azure Dragon Academy. After graduation, they had chosen to stay in the Azure Dragon Academy to further their studies. Therefore, they were extremely disgusted by this kind of thing that tarnished the reputation of the Azure Dragon Academy. Therefore, they could only trash talk. They did not dare to do anything. Feng Yaoguang and Mo Ling's expressions did not change. If they were doing this to infuriate him and the others, then they were gravely mistaken. In terms of maturity, they were still a little lacking. Enough, enough. Seeing that they wanted to continue their trash talk, Feng Yu immediately stopped them. They were not here to trash talk with them. They were not 3-year-old children. What was the point of trash talking? If they wanted a real fight, he, Feng Yu, would be willing to entertain them anytime. Seeing Feng Yu's attitude, the people who had come were actually a little guilty. The reason was very simple. Since Feng Yu had chosen Feng Yu as a target to set an example for others, then of course they knew all about Feng Yu's deeds like the back of their hands. In their minds, Feng Yu could be called a demon god. Otherwise, how could a single person obtain the fortune of Flame City the moment he arrived? Not only that, but he also fought against 10 enemies. On the second day, he killed the bloodthirsty demon wolves and the great ape of Gen Earth consecutively. Was he even human? This wasn't human. They were instinctively afraid of Feng Yu. However, they were even more aware that with such a godlike man standing in front of them, it would be very difficult for them to stand out. Therefore, they decided to encircle Feng Yu. Today, Feng Yu was the monster, and they were the Feng Yu of yesterday. Gulp. Someone swallowed a mouthful of saliva and stepped forward. Feng Yu, if you surrender today, you can still stay here and continue to participate in the semifinals. This was a stopgap measure they had discussed before. Feng Yu wasn't a fool. Wouldn't he feel guilty in front of so many people? They didn't believe it. However, rashly fighting to the death was not the result they wanted to see. Feng Yu was still one of the strongest experts. The price of fighting to the death with him was too great. They didn't even know if they would be directly eliminated. Then, they would go for wool and come home shorn. Therefore, they decided to set a trap. They would force Feng Yu to a dead end and then give him a chance. When Feng Yu relaxed, they would subdue Feng Yu and directly send Feng Yu out. As for whether this was despicable or not, they didn't care. Being despicable was the passport of the despicable, and being noble was the epitaph of the noble. As long as they eventually became students of the Azure Dragon Academy and Feng Yu was eliminated, that would be enough. In any case, the heaven-cleaving alliance was to snipe the geniuses in front of them. Whether it was noble or not, the situation had been set the moment it was established. There was nothing to regret. In addition, Mo Ling and Feng Yaoguang were willing to show their goodwill. They had discussed it before. They had to leave some leeway. If they forced Feng Yaoguang and the others to a dead end after dealing with Feng Yu, the reputation of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance would definitely plummet. They would be reviled even if they entered the Azure Dragon Academy. Therefore, they wanted to deal with the more difficult ones first, such as Feng Yu and the others, and then recruit Mo Ling and Feng Yaoguang. If it didn't work, they would also remove Mo Ling and leave Feng Yaoguang, who asked Mo Ling to be too strong. The reputation of being the second strongest in the younger generation of Tianji Hall was too loud. They didn't dare to take the risk. Hearing this, Feng Yu laughed. As someone who had lived 2 lives, Feng Yu was able to tell what these fellows were planning with a single glance. The funny thing was that they thought he didn't notice and continued to put on an act with him. Please, they were so afraid of him and still wanted to provoke him. Weren't they courting death? Alright, I've said it. Let's be direct. Some schemes and tricks are useless against me. Fang Yu won't believe you. Fang Yu said frankly to save time for both sides. It would be very boring if they still wanted to kill each other after praising each other for half a day. Fang Yu, then, this person's eyes turned and changed the topic. Let's go together. Now, Fang Yu was sitting on a huge rock. His lazy appearance was full of openings. The people walking in front of them had all cultivated terrifying movement martial arts and were able to close in on Fang Yu in an instant. They wanted to use this opportunity to make the final decision. Fang Yu snorted, and a blazing heat appeared in his body. Fire Elf Bloodline. Elf Emperor Imprint. Fire Elf Emperor Physique. Fang Yu connected the three auras together. His dragon teeth blade suddenly shone as if it had become a real sun. This is, the dragon's soul felt an unprecedented terror from this terrifying flame. If Fang Yu were to attack it, he wouldn't even need the power of the soul book page. Just this mysterious and unfathomable power of fire would be enough to burn it to ashes. When had Fang Yu obtained such a terrifying strength? Was it in Flame City? Is this the good fortune of Flame City? The dragon's soul couldn't help but think. It had a close relationship with Fang Yu, and it wasn't just master and servant. But it was also clear that whether it was Fang Yu or itself, they both had secrets that couldn't be spoken of. Thus, it often maintained this bottom line and wouldn't take the initiative to probe Fang Yu's secrets unless Fang Yu was willing to speak of them. But today, the dragon's soul was truly terrified of Fang Yu's hidden strength. Just what kind of person was this? If Fang Yu was from the Dragon Clan or the Phoenix Clan, it wouldn't be strange. Dragons gave birth to dragons, phoenixes gave birth to phoenixes, and the son of a mouse could dig holes. Since he was from these ancient clans, it was reasonable for a peerless genius to appear. However, Fang Yu was from a small clan in Skylight City. Just what kind of small clan could give birth to Fang Yu? It was amazing. What kind of small clan was this? Fang Yu didn't know the emotions of the dragon soul. He gripped his dragon teeth blade tightly and slashed it out. Setting sun, blazing sun. Chapter 260. At first glance, Fang Yu's slash did not seem any different from before. However, when he completely swung his saber, the difference became obvious. This saber suddenly burst forth with raging flames, as if the sun was falling. At a glance, it was enough to stun people. Rumble! With a sweep of the saber, a few people immediately turned into burning men. As these people screamed, they subconsciously used the token to teleport away and lost their qualifications. This scene left them all dumbfounded. They admitted that Fang Yu definitely had some strength. Otherwise, it would be impossible for him to be first on the list. At the same time, they also estimated the strength of everyone on the list. They were certain that no matter how strong Fang Yu was, they could deal with him. It was all within their expectations. In the end, Fang Yu's strength was already beyond powerful. He killed a total of 7 martial grandmasters with a single slash. If it were not for the token that allowed them to leave the Azure Dragon Mirror in time, they would have died here. Isn't this a little too shocking? Everyone's expression changed. They did not expect Fang Yu to be so powerful and terrifying. Who else? Fang Yu waved his saber and asked lazily. This time, everyone was really uneasy. Wasn't that right? How could a guy who could kill 7 people with a single slash be ambushed by them? Let's go. The word, let's go, indicated that the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance had failed for the first time. However, they did not think that it was a big deal. As the saying went, where there was life, there was hope. As long as they were still around, they would get their revenge sooner or later. Hee hee, you still want to leave? Fang Yu chuckled with a cold expression. Wasn't that right? Since they were here, they had offended him. How could they let this matter go so easily? Impossible. Seeing this, Mo Ling and Feng Yaoguang were shocked. This was Fang Yu? Fang Yu was so strong? No way. They all had an incredulous expression. Could they say that even they did not expect Fang Yu to be so strong? Seeing Fang Yu giving chase, Mo Ling hesitated for a moment before deciding not to give chase. According to her, it was best not to pursue a cornered enemy. Fang Yu took care of 7 people with a single slash, achieving the effect they wanted. In that case, he wouldn't have to risk his life like this in the future. Fang Yu was also a person who liked to do things with ease. Now that he had chased after them and pursued them, it couldn't be said that he was wrong. I'm a little worried about Fang Yu, Feng Yaoguang said. Mo Ling smiled. Although she wanted to say that there was nothing to worry about, the uneasiness in her heart was still lingering. Swish, swish, swish. Fang Yu chased after the fleeing cultivators, forcing them to leave the azure dragon mirror one by one. Fang Yu, we'll meet again. Someone could not help but curse. He admitted that this method was wrong, but Fang Yu didn't even give him a chance. That was too much. When we meet again, I'll chop off your dog head. Fang Yu did not want to be outdone. If anyone thought that Fang Yu would be afraid because of this, they were gravely mistaken. If he was afraid, it would be difficult for him to reach the peak in this lifetime, not to mention returning to the profound sky world for revenge. So, when Fang Yu was about to catch up with the last person, he suddenly disappeared. The person who was prepared to leave behind some ruthless words and escape from the azure dragon mirror was stunned when he realized that Fang Yu had suddenly disappeared. However, he didn't have time to think and immediately fled. It was rare that this godlike man didn't kill them all. If he didn't leave now, when would he? Fang Yu's aura. Mo Ling, who had been paying close attention to Fang Yu, had a change in expression. Where is he? After confirming that Fang Yu had really disappeared, Mo Ling also revealed a panicked expression. She didn't expect that her worries would come true. Fang Yu had really changed. Fang Yu has disappeared? Feng Yaoguang reacted and asked as she chased after him with Mo Ling. Unfortunately, it was empty. There were only traces of Fang Yu chasing after the heaven-cleaving alliance. However, Fang Yu had disappeared. What should we do? Feng Yaoguang was anxious. Don't worry. Fang Yu is a person who knows when to stop. Now that he has disappeared and didn't inform us, it can only mean that it happened suddenly and we didn't have time to inform him. Then, it seems very strange. Mo Ling calmed Feng Yaoguang. Fang Yu's disappearance without warning was already troublesome enough. If Feng Yaoguang was added, then how could they survive? Therefore, no matter what, they had to calm Feng Yaoguang first to prevent further trouble. Let's go. Mo Ling pondered for a while and made a decision. Go? Then, what about Fang Yu? Feng Yaoguang was stunned. Yes, if they left, what would happen to Fang Yu? What should they do? You woman, you're really worried. Mo Ling sighed. I know you're worried about Fang Yu, but there's one thing you have to be clear about. What is it? Feng Yaoguang asked. This man is more mysterious than we thought. He has so many trump cards that even I have to respect him. Instead of worrying about Fang Yu, you should worry about whether the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance has any follow-up pursuers. After all, there's only you and me now. If the two of us were to deal with the situation just now, I'm afraid it would be a little difficult. Mo Ling said with a deep meaning. Feng Yaoguang quivered and woke up. That's right, without Fang Yu, shouldn't they be the most worried about themselves? Fang Yu's safety wasn't something they should be concerned about, right? Let's hurry up. We'll take things one step at a time. After Mo Ling finished speaking, she hurried along with Feng Yaoguang. Fang Yu slowly woke up. Where is this place? He was asking the dragon's soul. He fainted, but the dragon's soul should still be awake. After all, the dragon's soul was in a spiritual state and probably wouldn't be disturbed. I don't know, but it's probably some secret realm or something. The dragon's soul replied. Secret realm? Fang Yu had a strange expression. So, after I entered the azure dragon mirror, I fell into another secret realm? Dolls are forbidden. If there's no problem with the will of the azure dragon mirror, such strange things shouldn't happen. But the will of the azure dragon mirror, you know. The dragon's soul said helplessly. Fang Yu was silent. That's right, the will of the azure dragon mirror was probably fighting against the evil spirit. Most of the time, it couldn't free itself. Otherwise, how could the evil spirit easily descend and possess the bloodthirsty demon wolf? As for the evil spirit itself, it didn't care what happened to the azure dragon mirror. The azure dragon mirror was just a tool. After it took revenge on the Azure Dragon Academy, if it was still useful, it might keep it. If it was useless, it would just treat it as trash and throw it away. Therefore, if anything happened during this period of time, they could only blame it on their bad luck. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.